losing $10 million.
Yeah. What I started to understand was you cannot save your way to wealth. And that's what America wants you to do. America wants you to save your way to wealth. They want you to understand that for some odd reason, you can just be good enough to own one house, have one car, have 2 kids, and live this white picket fence thing. And it goes down to, they say, oh, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. It's true. But what made them a millionaire was probably 1 or 2.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Brandon Narain with Blue Notes Inc. And Brandon flew in from Orlando, Florida to talk about how he's lost $10 million wholesaling real estate. Guys, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on the show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. If you'll take consistent action, you'll become one. And guys, if you get value out of the show today, please hit that subscribe button. That way we can all grow together. You ready?
Ready to go, Steve.
All right. So I've been following for a long time, obviously, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. So what was your life like right before you got into real estate?
Man, life was peaceful, but it was a long journey. I was born to a single mom. I was raised by a single mom and grandmother. My mom and grandma are Colombian immigrants, and basically had to share a bedroom with my grandmother to the age of 16, just because of the fact we just financially weren't stable. I was born in Queens, New York, and after I was 15, 14, I moved to Orlando, Florida. So, my mom and grandma did everything they could, obviously, to keep the lights on, keep food in my stomach, and obviously a place for me to live. But didn't really learn too much about credit. I was the first person, actually second person to go to college in my immediate family. And homeownership wasn't something that, we spoke about too much. It was something that we aspired to do, but it wasn't something that I guess a lot of us had. So I didn't have a father figure in my life. I met it when I was 16. So life was just, I guess, normal for me, and where I was in Queens, New York. And I just thought everything was normal until I started to branch out. So I didn't have a silver spoon, basically, to sum it all up.
Right. So we moved down to Orlando.
Yeah.
At which point were you considering real estate?
Yeah, so essentially, in school, I didn't get the best grades. I did like the bare minimum. I was always getting in trouble, getting referrals, skipping school, doing everything. And essentially, what ended up happening was I quickly graduated, and I started to tell myself, man, I'm an only child, right? And it's my job to make sure that I retire my mom early. Like, nobody else can do that but me. And I started to quickly change my mindset and just, let me obviously try to come out here and be the man of the house. And I'll quickly share a story. One time I was just essentially at Publix with my grandmother. I don't know if you guys have Publix out here, but I was at Publix with her.
Yeah, we got him.
Okay, perfect. So, and the guy in front, she went to go pay for the groceries and it declined. And the guy behind us basically was like, hey, I'll go ahead and pay for it. And he ended up paying for our groceries. And from that day, I told myself, you know what? I'll never, ever let another man be the dictatorship of whether me and my family, my mom, my grandma eat. And I basically, out of high school, I like to stay fresh. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to cut hair. So I quickly got a job as a boy cleaning and sweeping at the barber shops. And I was learning how to cut hair as an apprentice. So I did that until I learned how to cut hair. And while I was learning how to cut hair, it was crazy because I was very conscious about my surroundings and other people. And I always looked at what other people did. And one of my biggest hacks in life is being around older people. I feel like wiser, older people, you can always learn so much more, right? Like, even if you're around somebody that's homeless, you can learn on the reason why they're homeless, right? So I was just looking around and I was asking myself, well, man, you know what? I don't want to be an older barber, 40, 50 years old, still cutting hair. And even then, I was trying to buy a car. I was looking into home ownership at a younger age, and nobody really filed their taxes. It was all a cash business. Nobody was really prolonging. And I started to see, like, you know what?
You're just looking at in the shop.
In the barber shop. And what I saw was like, okay, the only way for me to really make money, and this was years of me after working, maybe 2 or 3 years, and I worked as a barber for 6 years. But what I looked at was you can only make more money by cutting more hair, which meant obviously spending less time away from your family, right? Number 2 is charging more, but your competition is around you, so you really can't, charge more.
Yeah.
And number 3 was becoming the owner of a barbershop, but most of the owners still worked cutting hair. So that kind of raised a red flag for me. So like I said, my mom and grandma being immigrants from Colombia, the American dream is always just go to college, get a degree, buy a house, get married, and die. So I said, you know what? I'll go to college. So I went to my local hospital, started volunteering. and I became a patient transporter after 4 months for volunteering for free. So I was now cutting hair on the weekends. I was working as a transporter, making $9.50 an hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I was going to school, community college, Monday and Wednesday. So
So you
same
had the
thing
hustle
happened.
in you.
Oh man, I always had the hustle because my mom always worked 2 to 3 jobs. My grandma did 30 years. She actually worked in Trump Hotel cleaning and doing the hotels, a bunch of hotels in downtown Manhattan. So I was always taught, just hustle, 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 keep your head down and you'll get it. So yeah, I was going to community college, working at the barbershop, and then transporting patients. And the same thing happened to me again. I started to look at what's called an earning capacity, which back then I didn't know what it was, but now I knew what it was. And it's essentially is that if you look at your boss and your boss has been there for 10 years, you've been there for 2 years, and you're unhappy with what he looks like and how his life is and what he's making, well, that's your future.
Yeah.
And you have to quickly start to look at yourself and say, you know what? Well, is it worth me to stay here?
Hmm.
So the best thing about what I did is number one, I leveraged the fact that I was staying at home with my mom and grandma, right? A lot
Hmm.
of the times as young entrepreneurs or just young adults, we just pay for our car insurance, we pay for our phone bill, but essentially we're then just having fun. We may be dating a girl here,
Hmm.
whatever, and you're not really doing much with trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, right?
Yeah.
So I always leveraged the fact that I was, trying to save money.
Mhm. So this whole time, like your characteristics, you're hyper aware.
Hyper aware. And like I said, with the earning capacity, I started to
Was that normal
understand.
with your friends or?
Yeah, it was no, it wasn't normal with my friends. I just for some odd reason, I was always good at uh just I was popular in school,
Mm,
so I always had that gift of gab, getting people to laugh, getting people to buy into my vision. Let's
mm,
go. People want to go over here. I'm like, no, let's go over here, and everybody would follow. So
mhm,
I don't know why. I was just so in tuned with just being nosy. Like I
mm,
wanted to know how did your life go? Like how did you end up here? How did you do
mhm.
this? Always when I got around older
So
people.
you're always curious.
Always was curious, which what really helped me with real estate
Mhm.
because when I worked at the barber shop, a lot of men go to the barber shop, man, just to get away from their wife or just to go ahead and have a haircut, just to be away and just to have conversations. Most of the time, they don't even care about the haircut. They're just like, man, I just want to have a place to go, a man
Mhm.
cave, right? And then it also transpired into being a patient transporter because I learned empathy.
Mhm.
I learned how to treat people with love, kindness, especially elderly people that so many people go to the hospital and they don't have families that go to visit them. And that helped me so much with real estate because a lot of times you have to lead with empathy, lead
Mhm.
with sympathy. You had to understand how to solve an emotional problem.
Yeah.
So with nursing, it was the same exact thing. I started to understand that for some odd reason, there's people out here that make way more money than a doctor, right? But the doctor's more important because the doctor is saving lives.
Mhm.
So how can Steve Trang or Brandon Narain or any of the other people make so much more money than a doctor? But the doctor's more important. It's because of the earning capacity. Because basically they are either paid on salary or by insurance if they own their practice. But with
Mhm.
us, we can close $1 million deal and we're good.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to understand the hack. And obviously everybody starts with Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was
Mhm.
my favorite book. And then it was also Outwitting the Devil. I read Outwitting the Devil at least one time a year.
Really?
I love that book. I love that book by Napoleon Hill. And what I started to understand was you cannot save your way to wealth. And that's
Mm,
what America wants you to do. America wants you to save your way to wealth. They want you to understand that for some odd reason, you can just be good enough to own one house,
mhm.
have one car, have two kids, and live this white picket fence thing. And the craziest thing is that you start to look at it, when you're born, like I said, since wasn't born with a silver spoon, I understood that my mindset was set automatically. And
Mhm.
I had to basically subconsciously go in there and start to change my auto mindset
Yeah.
because of the fact that I didn't know these types of things. I didn't have a rich dad. So when I started with real estate, I became a realtor. I basically after that, it took me 5 years to go ahead and get my associate's degree, which was only a 2-year degree. Became a realtor, and I thought that was the best way to go, and
Yeah.
failed at that. Failed at that. It was just horrible because I wasn't the decision maker.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
So in what way did you fail?
I failed. Number one is because I guess when you go to real estate school and you get real estate license, they don't teach you anything about making money.
Yeah.
They just teach you the logistical things of understanding the laws, understanding what you're not supposed to do, what you're supposed to do.
Mm,
They're supposed to pay your broker for everything. And then, hey, go find Coldwell Banker or find Keller Williams and just let them indoctrinate you into your system. And then hopefully you'll get a deal.
right.
And the craziest thing was they say use your sphere of influence.
Mhm.
But everybody around me, we don't have credit. We don't have debt to income ratio. It's I didn't have anybody or knew anybody that was really able to qualify for a home.
Mhm.
And that's why I started Facebook and Instagram. I went from MySpace straight to Instagram and Facebook. So like everything in between, I missed, and it was because of that. And basically, yeah, I would come out of work, out of my scrubs, and I'd go show somebody houses. And I remember it was just one lady. I showed her a house, probably a couple houses, a month, and it was like 3 months. And I used to drive maybe 45 minutes. I live in Orlando, so I went to Port Cape Canaveral and a bunch of places, which is far from me. And after 3 months, she didn't want to buy anything. And I showed her everything. And I said, you know what? Even if she would have bought something, I still would have only made like 3K. And I said, there has to be another way.
Yeah.
There has to be another way. So that's how I ended up with real estate wholesaling, which is the best thing that ever happened to me.
When did you come to that realization?
I came to that realization when I closed my first deal. And I understood that now everything that I really wanted in life was actually obtainable.
Mhm.
Because, sometimes you put yourselves in these situations where, well, you know what, this job has good benefits. It has health insurance. It has, dental insurance.
Mm.
I can work my way up. But when I was working at the hospital, I clearly remember that I had so much PTO, paid time off, that they said, Brandon, you have to go ahead and take your vacation. And I was like, okay, cool. And I finally took it. And guess where I went?
Real estate school?
No, I went nowhere because I had no money.
Mm.
I couldn't vacate anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, that's what you do is that you stay in a job, especially in corporate America, because of the fact that it may have good benefits, or you
Mhm.
may think that you may work your way up. Or so many times I hear this stupid excuse of, hey, yeah, I only have 10 more years until I retire. It's like, geez, 10 more years.
Mhm.
I've met people that have become millionaires in 2 years,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I came to the realization that I've saved up probably throughout that whole time working 2, 3 jobs, probably $6,000. And when I closed my first deal, I made $8,500, and that's when I understood that you can make a lot more money faster than
When you
can
say you
save.
closed your first deal, what does that mean?
So I basically wholesaled. So
Mm.
I
So
found
you wholesaled it. So
wholesaled.
how
Yes.
did you come to learn about wholesaling?
So after I became a realtor and failed miserably, I went online, started YouTubing like how other ways I can get into the real estate business,
Mhm.
right? And once I started learning the concept about wholesaling, of course, it came out to me as a scam. Like, how are you even able to do this?
Was this
Doesn't
like
even make no
Max
sense.
Maxwell? Like what
It
were
was
you getting this?
actually so there was this guy named Antonio
Edwards?
Edwards, yep. And there was another guy that was out there. I forgot his name. But all he does is talk about creative financing.
Mhm.
Great guy, man. I got to remember his name. But anyways, there's Antonio Edwards. And Max was out on there as well, but I don't think he was putting that much stuff out there at the time. At least I don't remember.
When did you start?
2017.
Yeah,
So,
Max wasn't really
yeah,
on the
yeah,
map yet.
Yeah. So, that's when I started seeing, and I said, okay, well, this is crazy. So let me go ahead and figure this thing out. And when it didn't make sense to me at the time, but when I started to understand my paperwork and the contracts, which is I do recommend it. This is why I tell people, you know what, you should get your license. But it's because then I understood,
Mhm.
okay, I'm able to go ahead and do this risk-free because I can back out because of the inspection period. I'm able to assign the equitable interest because what I'm gaining is the equitable interest. And this is why I can do that, right?
Right.
So the paperwork makes the paperwork. So yeah, essentially my first deal at that point in time, you know what? This is actually obtainable. Like I can actually buy the house that I want to buy. I can drive the car I want to drive. I can retire my mama. I can help
Yeah.
other people. I can live the life that I want to live because you live in this facade of thinking that you can work 2 to 3 jobs or go to school and that, you know what, you may get that mansion on the hill and you're not going to because your earning capacity is limited.
capped.
It's capped.
So you talk about doing your deal with your real estate license. You already
Mhm.
it felt like it was risk free. So like I don't generally suggest people get their real estate license,
Mhm.
but I can say that you have a great deal of confidence
Yes.
in what you're doing
Yes.
if you're licensed
Yes.
because you understand
Mhm.
all these terms. Like the transition to go from realtor to wholesaler was really easy.
Yeah.
Because I already had a transaction coordinator,
Mhm.
right? I already had my relationships with escrow.
Mhm.
I could talk the lingo,
Yeah.
right? Like a homeowner could never like stump me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, in my case, I didn't have any of that because I never closed a
You never even
retail
closed the
deal.
deal.
Yeah, never closed a retail deal. But you know what I did have is that I had, like you said, the confidence but I also was really vested in the real estate like laws and the verbiage.
Hmm.
So when I looked at the contract, it made sense to me.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing about that is that a lot of the times I think as newbie wholesalers, they don't read the fine print.
Hmm.
And many times if you're not confident in something that you're not educated in.
Right.
And I clearly remember my first deal. It was actually a tax delinquent, and I was doing postcards. I used to print the postcards out. So I used to go to Office Depot. I used to get like the thick paper. I used to come on my computer, print them out, and then I would go back to Office Depot, have them cut it in six, and I would mail them out.
Hmm.
And it was crazy because if let's just say it misprinted on one page, I'd have to redo like two pages, right? But anyways, it was and that was obviously before I learned about yellow letter HQ, and
Right.
obviously somebody taught me about that. But anyways, I remember going to the house, 115 Bob Thomas Circle, and I remember half my car, I had Infiniti G35, and my car was black, but half of it, the clear coat was gone. So I remember driving, and the husband and wife are coming out the house, and I'm like, oh, I don't want them to see like my ugly car. So I did a U-turn and when I parked, so they could see the nice side of my car. And I just remember like literally just going through the contract and a lot of the times one of the big keys for me is that I use the Florida State Far Bar since most of my deals are in Florida. I use the actual real estate contract and that actually helps me a lot because I use that to my advantage to say, hey, this is the same contract that you used to buy this house.
Hmm.
And since it says already assignment there, since it says obviously you can put a 15, 30-day, 20-day inspection period, that's the one that I've used. Now, virtually throughout the nation, I have obviously another one that I use, but I just use that contract, and it was because of the realtor side of me that has allowed me to be able to just have that advantage over other people and get
Yeah.
deals done.
I can say absolutely. The first few years I was doing it, I was using the Arizona Association of Realtors
There you
contracts.
go.
Right.
There you go.
It was Steve Trang and or assignee. And then on page 7 at the time, I think it's like page 8 or 9 now. It was just all those disclosures,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, whatever.
Seller is aware that buyer intends to resell for profit. Seller is aware buyer is a licensed realtor. Like
Mhm.
all that language in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was I was getting paid to Brandon P. Narain, PA, professional associate
Mhm.
at the time. And then like my broker, it was like a broker that like was in like a corner office that didn't even care. I think I was maybe his only agent. Like
Yeah.
it was one of those things that just nobody it was so then after time I was like, okay, I gotta actually get this thing going. I have to get my LLC. I have to so it was just a journey, man. But I'm happy to be here 6.5 years in the running. So
Yeah. So let's talk about your very first deal.
yeah.
How did you find your first deal?
So yeah, my first deal, as I said, it was tax delinquent. So I went actually onto the county website and I pulled all the tax delinquents. Now this is a little embarrassing, right? Because the funny thing is, I used to pull that list every single month, not knowing that the tax roll was every single year.
Mhm.
So I was marketing to the same people all the time.
Yeah.
But the cool thing that I
You're
learned about
consistent.
that exactly was that the average deal for us takes, and along the nation too, is minimum 5 to 7 touches.
Mhm.
Right. So that's another great thing that I learned that I didn't really know that I was marketing to the same houses. But over time, the cool thing is that I was still getting deals,
Mhm.
right? Thinking that I was getting a new list. So yeah, basically it was a tax delinquent list. And I was a big, huge advocate of direct mail. I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day, that's what everybody was pushing: direct mail, direct mail, direct mail. So that's what I was doing. I would send out what's called a blind postcard.
Mhm.
And a blind postcard essentially is where, and it works well with tax delinquents and obviously code violations because it's municipality. Basically, it's the city or coordinates saying, hey, listen, something's wrong. So if they're already dealing with that, we send a postcard that looks like it's from the county,
Mhm.
and then they call us because they're getting already that type of call, that type of notification. So it worked really, really well for me.
Yeah. So you get that, you pull that list, you mailed it,
Mailed it.
they
Yeah.
reach out to you.
Mhm.
How was that first transaction?
So the first transaction was great. Like I said, I was really scared. I was really like, man, I remember it was February, I think I closed like February 18th or something like that. And my girlfriend, her birthday's the 16th. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, I don't have no money to buy her anything. I really need this to close so I can go ahead and at least take her out. But I mean, the process was great. I used what was it? CallRail. I used CallRail,
Mhm.
and I would have them. I would obviously had like a press one, press two, an IVR, and they went to press one. And basically, I think it was I think it was less than 30 days that I closed that deal. And I found somebody to find me a buyer. I paid them, I think $1,500,
Mhm.
and it was 10K assignment. And I took the 8,500. And there was tenants in there and everything. So it was great for me. But actually, I that wasn't my first deal. I call it my first deal because I did it on my own. My first deal, I kind of got scammed a little bit, and it was essentially with an actual fix and flipper,
Mhm.
and I wasn't confident in actually getting properties under contract.
Yeah.
That I found the deal. I told him just get it under contract and just pay me when it gets done. And yeah, it was a 10K assignment, and he ended up paying me. I think 30 days later he paid me 5K, and then another 30 days later he paid me another 5K. And since then, that's when I said, you know what, I'm gonna make sure that I understand my verbiage. I'm gonna understand how I can get out of this
Yeah.
and everything, release cancellation, everything I got with title companies, and I started to understand, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So I don't count that one as my first deal, but more so my first lesson, and my first deal on my own was
Yeah.
when I made that $8,500.
Okay. So
Because that's the
so
biggest thing too, right, Steve? Is and sorry to cut you off. People they know this works, but does it work for me?
Mhm.
And that's what I was scared of.
Right.
Was
That's what I
like
was gonna ask you, right? Like now that you have a proof of concept.
exactly. Yeah.
So now you got a proof of concept.
hmm
How did your world change?
My role changed so much because at this point in time, it was well, you know what? How do I scale it?
Mhm.
But money management has never been good in my family, and it's not good throughout the nation, right? I mean, that's why America's in debt. That's why we're the most obese country. That's
Okay.
I mean, it's just how we are.
Right.
So for me, it was like, well, you know what? I'm still gonna keep working, but how do I actually get more deals? And at that point in time, it was just more so, okay, I'm just gonna take this money and I'm gonna reinvest it.
Mhm.
And the cool thing is that I was a hoarder at the time. Like when I say that, I'm a cash hoarder. When you see $8,500 in your bank account, you're like, okay, how do I keep this here and act like it's not there? So what I actually started to do is I started to go ahead and I call it now my sticky note strategy. But what I did is I actually got a sticky note. I was really cool with my mailman. And my mailman, for some odd reason, I don't know what happened. He changed routes or whatever. And I was like, dang, my mailman isn't coming anymore. Now, the new mailman, I really didn't know him. I really didn't approach him. I didn't talk to him. So, what I did is I decided to put a sticky note inside my mailbox.
Mhm.
And I decided to go ahead and see if I could partner up with him.
Mhm.
And what I started to understand is they will know the properties that are the most ugliest. They are the true, right? They're the true source to
Mhm.
getting real discounted, disgruntled, distressed properties. And by the time you knew it, I had a whole bunch of USPS workers working with me. I would see UPS people. I'd pull them over and say, "Hey, listen, this is what I do. Would you be interested?" The average postal worker does, I think, somewhere between like 100 to 150 stops a day. They deliver over 2,000 pieces per mail, and they're already getting paid to drive around,
Mhm.
right? And of course, I heard about this whole driving for dollars thing, but I didn't have time because I had two jobs. So for me, it was like I can't drive around, and unfortunately, the more you drive around, the less area you have to cover because by the time it's not going to be a abandoned house popping up every day.
Right.
So they already knew the routes. They already put green vacant postal cards saying that the house was vacant or maybe whatever the case may be. So they would just literally, I would have iPhone notes. They would plug them in there. We would share a note. We'd plug them in there. And I would just get distressed properties and I would skip trace them. At that time, I was using TLO,
Mhm.
and I would have to pay. I remember you had to have like a safety box, like they would call and
Oh
Zoom
yeah.
just to make sure. You remember back in the day,
Mhm.
we were paying like 18 cents just for skipping.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's how I was getting deals. And I tried to cut back from the direct mail because direct mail was expensive.
Right. So, uh, as soon as you close your first deal, you're trying to figure out how to scale,
Yeah.
but you knew it was real. You just weren't sure if it was real for you. So, what would you have done if you never closed that first deal?
Whew. I didn't close that first deal. Steve, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have done because at the same time, um, you really, it's to me, I think that I think wisdom takes you so much farther than anything else,
Mhm.
and experience. I've closed over 400 deals now, and every deal has been different. It can be a probate deal, it can be a lien amnesty deal, it can be a novation deal, but there's always that one different key
Mhm.
denominator in a situation. You know, it can be a divorce, but the divorce was different,
Right.
or there was a new, some type of new cloud that came up that I didn't know about. So I don't know. I think you really have to touch and feel it. So I really don't. I can't tell you because it didn't happen.
Um, You said a lien amnesty deal?
Lien amnesty. So I'll put you guys on game, right? So that was another way. There's this thing out there called the 70% rule, which you know it and I know it, right? And I never really abided by that. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why a lot of newbie wholesalers, if you're a newbie wholesaler and you're trying to get into the game, the reason that you're failing is because of the fact that you aren't doing your due diligence with your buyers. In my opinion, of course, you can't wholesale a house if you don't have a house.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the most important person in the transaction is a buyer, right? Because the buyer pays the title company, the buyer pays you, and the buyer pays the seller. Without the buyer, obviously, nothing gets paid.
Yeah, nothing's happening.
So what I like to do is reverse engineer the wholesaling process, right? And what I started to understand in my market in Orlando specifically, that most of my cash buyers were willing to go ahead and take deals at 18%,
Mm-hmm.
right, gross. Where the 70% rule, that means that they would make 20%, right? And I was outbeating my competition because I was able to offer, right, a little bit more to the seller because I knew that I could wholesale it for a little bit more. So just because at 2%, I was able to go ahead and get more deals. But one of the best things that I found out was a code violation deal.
Right.
And my favorite list is code violations. The reason why is batch, I love you, prop, I love you. I love all these systems, right? But these systems and these websites, unfortunately, you cannot get code violation data. Right. Unless you know one that can get one.
Nope. Always go to the county for us.
Yeah, exactly. So the greatest thing that I used to do is that I used to go ahead and go to the county, right? I used to get the code violation list, and I used to go ahead and find all properties that had real estate attached to it because some don't, right? Some can be agriculture, so it can be businesses, industrial, whatever the case may be. And then what I would do is I would look up the codes. I would call them and find out what the code is, right, for this or whatever the case may be. And then I would filter that out. While I was at work, I would cross it out. And then I would contact them, right? And I would do direct mail. Now, the cool thing about this is that I ended up closing this one deal. And the deal was essentially that the person didn't really care about the house because it had over $100,000 in code violations. It's been abandoned for a long time, 10 years plus. And when we went to the deal, we approached it. We said, well, we can't really do nothing here. Like, what can we do? I think the house is probably worth maybe 170. He owed in violations 100,000. There was no mortgage on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we ended up finding out is that there's this thing called lien amnesty. And lien amnesty is where if you bring the property up to code, they will actually clear out 90% to 100% of all the violation.
Right.
And most of the times what they'll do is that they'll only charge you up to a certain amount of hard cost. In my area, I think it was like $3,000. Or it would be like 98% of it cleared out and you'd only have to pay an extra, whatever it was. So when we found that out, I had basically my buyer commit to taking it with this cloud on the title, understanding that once they brought it up to code, the county would go ahead and wipe that whole lien off. And most of it was just rubbish. The roof wasn't done. The landscaping was horrible.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe like condemned, so they didn't want people going in there, whatever the case may be. But once they brought it up to code, they agreed that they would wipe it all away.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually wholesaled that deal for $40,000, right? And the homeowner walked away with $3,000. We gave him $3,000, and that's what he's like. I'll take it because obviously I'm like, hey, listen, this is a gamble.
Upside down.
Yeah, I don't even know. He didn't even know what I was going to do with it.
Right.
But in all reality, we knew we was about to get this $100,000 lien wiped off. So yeah, essentially, that's when I started to go after code violation deals because I knew that nobody else was going to go after them because once again, they're using these websites, right? So code violation deals really helped me a lot, and then I started to understand lien amnesty, and I started to go to other counties to try to see what their codes or what their practices were.
Is that your name for it, or is that other people call?
No, lien amnesty is what the county calls it. It's just an amnesty for the lien to take it down, to wipe it away as long as you're bringing it up to code. Because you have to understand, most of these cities and ordinances, they just want the house to be good. They just want it to be clean.
Just don't be ugly.
Yeah, don't be ugly because they want to put other people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Imagine you buy a house and right next to it, it's an abandoned home that's just been sitting there for 10 years.
Yes.
So for them, their hard cost is sending somebody out there just to put a sticker on it.
Right.
Right. So if you're able to just part ways with that, they're okay with you bringing it up to code. And that's what I found out. And I was able to make a lot of money.
Did you buy it subject to the existing code violations?
No. I literally had the cash buyer take it with the cloud on the title. So there was an encumbrance on the title, which essentially means you're taking it with a lien. And the lien says that there's a code violation for $100,000. But the great thing about it is that I went with the buyer to the city, and the city said yes. We'll even sign this paper saying once you bring it up to code, we will wipe it down to just this amount.
Mhm.
She was okay with it. I was okay with it. And that's where she literally signed me over a check for $40K.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's something that I know there's another person in Florida that's like, that was his thing. Like, he bought everything subject to
Mm.
code violations.
Oh, okay.
And then he would just negotiate them all down.
Dope.
Yeah. So you got pretty fancy pretty quick. Sales are becoming more difficult in this market. You have more competition than ever before, and homeowners are less willing to work with you on price. More and more leads are coming to you that have listed their home with a realtor already or are talking to a realtor. Because homeowners are pitting you against yourself, you feel like you have to pay more just so you have a chance. It doesn't have to be that way. Remember what it was like when you had little to no competition? What if you could connect with a homeowner and build so much trust that they feel like nobody can compete with you? Would you close more sales? That's why I wrote Active Listening 2.0. With our book, you can develop so much trust that the homeowner won't want to work with anybody else. If you want to copy my book, go to closemoresales.com/book and download it today. In your business.
Well, see, I did, and here's the biggest thing. I know you said this in another podcast. The best thing that I did, man, is I documented my journey.
Mhm.
And I would go live on Facebook and Instagram. The only people
In 17?
in 2018, I was going live on Facebook and Instagram. I might have joined around the same time, but I know for Facebook for sure I was going live, and the only person that would be on there like my mom and my aunt and my cousin.
Right.
And I was just documenting my journey, walking through a house, just talking about, look how ugly this house is, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna flip it. Because at that time, explaining wholesaling was just like too much. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm flipping these houses, right?
Right.
And the greatest thing that I've always done is I've understand to be a student of the game and always learn and always learn. So I've always been a YouTube person. I can watch, I can get addicted. And that's one of obviously, I think that's one of all of our entrepreneur, I guess you can say, stickler things, right? Is that we just get addicted to success. Like we just want more and more and more and more. So when I got into wholesaling, I just wanted to learn everything about real estate investing. Like I was just addicted to it. And that's how I was able to just figure things out. And with wholesaling, what people don't understand is all you're doing is you're providing a solution, but you have to find out what the problem is. And most of the times people don't know what the problem is. I'll give you another suggestion of a deal that I had. A lady, she was going through pre-foreclosure for, I think, 2 months. And we called her and we said, hey, are you interested in selling your property? And she was like, yeah, I am. But, they always tell me they're going to give me an offer. They never give me an offer. I'm like, okay, great. I'll come by and give you an offer. Basically, she was in a situation where nobody could really wholesale her property because she didn't have nowhere to go. And she said, well, Brandon, do you have houses? I said, yeah, I have a bunch of houses. And she's like, okay, well, great. Show me some of your houses. You know what I did? I went on Facebook Marketplace and find her a house. Now, she couldn't qualify to buy her home because she was obviously in a bad situation, but she was getting enough money from her pension to rent a house or rent a room. Well, what we did is that we found a room for her to rent. We found her a spot. We wholesaled the house. We made money. She made some money. And it was a deal that a lot of other wholesalers didn't pass up on. So what I tell people is you have to be that, you have to bring that solution. And
to be able to solve problems.
Yeah, the solution with her was just she didn't have another place to go.
Yeah.
And as a solution finder, a problem solver, we found somewhere for her to go.
Absolutely. So who helped you figure a lot of this stuff out?
Yeah. So one of my early on mentors, man, his name is Mac. Shout out to Mac. He's actually a hard money lender, a big hard money lender in my area. And I remember like it was yesterday. He basically told me, I was like, man, I want to start learning how to flip houses. And he's like, well, why? And I'm like, man, because you can make more money. And he's like, well, why do you think that? And I'm like, I don't know, just HGTV and, Netflix. And essentially he told me, and he broke it down, how there's so many variables when it comes down to flipping houses on why wholesaling and even hard money lending is way easier. You have buying a deal.
Man, hard money lending is great.
Yeah. And we'll get into that because I want to talk to you guys about how you can make so much money because that's my end goal, right? But I mean, with flipping a house, right, you have to get a good deal. You have to get the financing for it. Then you have to obviously hope you don't get conned by the contractors. Then obviously the inspector, then the appraiser, then the realtor, and then the market. So he was like, man, there's so many people, so many hands in the bucket with wholesaling. Find the house, you assign the contract, you're in and out, you make just as much or even more. And that's when I started to understand, okay, this is when I have to go ahead and start hitting the pedal to the metal and just going harder with my marketing.
Yeah. So you start again, 17 around then. When did you start having success?
So, man, I'll be honest with you. It wasn't until the end of 18, probably
Hmm.
the beginning of 19, where I had over 6 figures in my bank account, Steve, and I was still cutting hair on the weekends. I had the scarcity mindset of, you know what, I can still make a couple hundred, 400 or 500 bucks on a weekend. Why leave this job? Why
Yeah.
leave this job? But the worst thing about it is that the wealthy and the rich, we use our money to buy other people's time, and
Mhm.
obviously the middle class, lower class, they use their time to make money, and I didn't understand that,
Right.
right? And so I read the book, which was the I think it was what 24 hour or 25 hour week. Damn, I forgot the name of the book. Essentially, it talks about how you can make a lot more money faster than you can save it.
Hmm.
And I quit my job, and that's when I went full head in. One of the biggest things that I did was called market research, and I think that's another reason why so many new wholesalers fail is because a lot of times you may go into a market, but you don't know the demographic. You don't know the household medium income. You don't know what's the best list to pull.
Hmm.
For example, when I firstly started wholesaling later on in my career, I went to Las Vegas. And what I did was this was when text messaging was hot, right?
Hmm.
This is like I think when Batch came out and,
Yeah.
text messaging was really hot. So we did text messaging and we just pulled a really good list. I think we pulled like unknown equity. You remember when unknown equity
Oh yeah.
with the golden addresses was
Hmm.
really okay. So we did something like that. No deals. And I'm like, "Damn, why is no deals working? We did market research. Guess what we found out? Most of the people in Las Vegas are elderly.
Hmm.
We also found out that there's a lot of high equity and tired landlords there.
Hmm.
So we said, okay, listen, the demographic is different. They're probably not going to answer the text messages,
Right.
obviously. And you know what? We're targeting the wrong list, the wrong people, right? So what we did is we changed it up. We went with high equity, went with tired landlords, and then we went with cold calling and
Mhm.
direct mail. And guess what? We started getting deals.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, I think when you get started, many people they start fishing in a pond that they don't even know if there's fish there. They don't even know if there's actually buyers even buying in that area. So it was really really important for me. I started off with getting a lot of buyers first, finding out what they really wanted to buy, how they wanted to buy, what they're willing to spend. Then after that, I started to understand my market. I understand the median sales price, which was another great thing for me. In my market, the average wholesale fee is 28K. I've been to some markets like Detroit or like Ohio,
Hmm.
where there's smaller assignment fees because the median sales price is lower.
Right.
So choosing a market that makes sense for you to have chunky wholesale fees makes a big difference. I think a lot of times we have great podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff like ours, but we don't talk about the market research enough because it's
Hmm.
very important for you to understand your market and know who your avatar is.
Right. So you expanded to Vegas.
Mhm.
At that time, did you expand to multiple markets?
Yeah, so after I went and started just dominating Orlando, I was doing great, man. I was doing direct mail. I had the USPS people working for me, and I was just doubling down. I was doing really good. At that point in time, that's when I started to understand that I couldn't do this all on my own, right? I got really, really good with systems
Hmm.
and CRM, and I just used the CRM to be able to help me automate, delegate, replicate myself, and started to understand KPIs, which was very important because a lot of the times you don't know how you got here. And my first year, I didn't know how I got there. All I knew, I was just doing the shotgun approach. I
What
didn't
do you
know.
mean you don't know how you got there?
I didn't know how I closed the deal. I didn't know how many touches it took. I didn't know what list they came from. I didn't know what skip trace provider I used. All I knew is that the lead came in. I called it several times. I
Yeah.
got an appointment and I closed the deal. So that was the number one mistake that I corrected. First off,
Hmm.
was that. The number two mistake, just to kind of backpedal, was when I would get one or two deals. All I would do was focus on those two deals, and I wasn't working on getting new leads in the pipeline
Right.
because you're just wanting to get those deals closed,
Yeah. It's so
right?
important to get those deals closed. That
Yeah,
you.
yeah, because you're like, man, it's there until obviously then one of those don't close, and then you're like, oh my god, I
Right.
thought I was gonna make $25,000.
Yeah. You lost the money and you
Lost
weren't
time.
prospecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was the second thing. And then the third thing was just more so doubling down, man. You're making money, double down in your business, pay for mentorship, pay for systems, pay for better quality data, hire VAs. So I got really good at training, I got really good at sales. And yeah, so I started to expand. We went to Detroit, North Carolina. Las Vegas, I did for a little bit. I really didn't get too much traction there. But Detroit, North Carolina, and Orlando was just my markets. I
Gotcha.
was just tearing it up.
Um, so when did you realize like this is it?
I would say right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic.
And then
Right,
after pandemic?
man. So right before the pandemic, I had a beautiful office just like yours. I had a office of 12 people, and I had acts, I had dispositions, had TC, had admin,
Mm,
had the whole shebang going. Me and a partner, and yeah, the pandemic hit, and it was crazy because I remember 2020 in January, I did my first speaking engagement. They were like, "Hey, I want you to come and speak." So I did my first speaking engagement, and then you know how that goes. One wants you, then the next
mhm.
wants you, and then
Yeah, yeah.
just a facade of people wanting you on their platform. And then all of a sudden, I think what was it? I don't know, March, April, around this time. That's when the pandemic started. People started
Oh yeah,
talking about it,
March is when it got
and
real.
and then I started having deals slow up because of the county. People weren't working and all that. And I was just in my head like, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
And that's to kind of get into it. That's kind of how I lost over $10 million wholesaling,
Mm.
because one of the biggest things.
Hang on before we get into that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, it was really clutch in a lot of states.
Mm.
Only a couple that weren't. That all the escrow companies were deemed necessary work. What was it? Was that the term? Where like
No,
we need these.
yeah,
Was it
yeah,
necessary
no,
employee?
but I know what you're saying. Nurses too, doctors too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really clutch. They're like, yeah, escrow real estate companies like that is a necessary
Yeah, because people
industry,
need homes.
right?
Yeah.
So because we're all freaking out.
Yeah. Oh, freaking out. I remember at one point in time, it was just nothing you could really
I
do.
think Virginia was the one that closed, right? Or one of those states, right there, or like Pennsylvania closed.
Yep. Yep.
Right, like I have friends in Pittsburgh, and they're like losing their minds because like Pennsylvania did close.
Yeah. No, I mean, in New York, obviously, I'm from New York, and my family was just, I mean, it was just crazy in New York.
Yeah,
New York got hit really hard. New
yeah.
York got hit so hard that I remember, I think later on, they're letting people out. They're letting people out from the jails. Like,
Mhm.
that shouldn't even been out because they couldn't.
I
It's
remember
just too bad.
I had a private money lender in New York, and we're trying to do this deal,
Mm-hmm.
and he could not get the money to us. He just could not get the money to us.
That's
It was
crazy.
like you can borrow money, right? Like you need it like tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like we gave him like 3 days. Like, hey, we need this. A week later, I was like, where is this money? He's like, I can't. Like, I'm trying to get this to you, but the banks just like they won't.
Let you do it.
Yeah, like
That's crazy.
it was insane.
Did you
So,
ever think something like that would ever happen?
uh,
Like
not
going anywhere where everybody has mask on and
not that early. I mean, I've always kind of
had some
thought.
thought. Yeah.
I mean, my own history, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
coming from China and Vietnam, where communism took over. Like, I kind of feel like this is going to happen in the United
Yeah.
States at one point.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was going to happen in
That,
2020.
yeah, which is
Well, the
crazy.
good thing was, we're in Arizona, so like COVID never happened here, right?
Yeah, in Florida too. We were like
Right.
open like after like 2 months.
Right.
Parties, everything was open.
Yeah, like Carlos, his thing was he was saying, come to Zona for the Rona, right? So, okay, so losing $10 million,
Yeah,
wholesaling real estate.
yeah. So one of the biggest things that I want you to understand is number one, real estate wholesaling has changed my life. Real
Mhm.
estate wholesaling has made me a lot of money, but more so, I learned how to actually invest into real estate
Mhm.
by wholesaling real estate for free. But one of the biggest things that a lot of the times we don't take into account is building sellable businesses. And in my opinion, an acquisition company, a wholesaling company, is just as good as I'll put an example, the Lakers. Right now, LeBron is playing for the Lakers, but is the Lakers going to be valued $100 billion if he leaves? And the answer is no.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times when you go to sell your wholesaling company, you're really just selling data, systems, and process or
Mhm.
CRM that you're using from maybe another third party.
Right.
So there's really nothing tangible there, in my opinion. And what I should have been doing is I should have been not wholesaling everything, but I should have been keeping some of the properties. I've had assignment fees of 70 multiple times, 70K, 60K, 60K, 50K, 70K. And a lot of those deals had huge equities in them
Mhm.
where I should have kept it. One was in the pandemic, which was my biggest deal, 70,400. And I remember I got that deal for 210. I wholesaled it for 280. And since the COVID was booming, the market was booming,
Mhm.
they sold it for like 560. And if I would have kept that property, just off of that property, right?
Mhm.
Just think about how much money in equity, just the cash flow I would have had. So a lot of the times you go into it because of the scarcity mindset that we have from coming from no money or working in corporate America, not having that much money, to then having so much money, you always are chasing that number in your account. You want to have that stability, and that's how
Mm.
I was,
Yeah.
right? So I wholesaled everything, and I didn't think about,
You didn't keep anything?
I have a couple, but well, obviously now I have more. But at the time, now I probably had like two. I had one creative finance deal, subject to, and I had one rental property that I got for really cheap, and I was like, okay, cool. But $50,000, 40,000, I'm
Mm.
wholesaling. So that was the biggest mistake, and that's how I was able to lose so much money because at the end of the day, wholesaling real estate is transactional. If you're not marketing, you're dying,
Mhm.
right? And the game is consistently changing because of the texting,
Nonstop.
because of the cold calling. I know you was on here with Jerry, right, talking
Mm.
about winter is here and it's not coming. Obviously, National Association of Realtors just said that, what's going on with the realtors. I mean, and there's so many people teaching real estate wholesaling that at the end of the day, there's bad apples out there.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, there's going to be people that are just going to come in and do it the wrong way. And,
Mhm.
and it's going to be bad for the rest of us. So the greatest thing is what I started to do, right, is I started to leverage my cash buyers. I would ask them, they'd say, hey, Brandon, you know what? Yeah, can I give you 100,000 for this property? Let's say I want a 105. And I'd be like, well, listen, I'll cut you a deal. I'll do 1025, right? If you go ahead and sign send the EMD sign right now. But I want to be able to shadow you on this project. I want to be able to ask you questions. I want to be able to go, look at the deal as it goes through.
Mhm.
And what I started to understand is I started to leverage their hard money lenders, their private money lenders. I started to leverage understanding what properties or why they would rent over flip. I would ask them, hey, listen, why do you
You
always
learn all the
paint it?
different exit strategies.
Yes, exactly. Why do you always paint your houses gray and the doors red, right? Or why do you always use this? And they're like, well, listen, do you think that this person knows that this house 30 minutes away looks the same as this house? No, we're reusing the materials.
Mhm.
So I started to understand the flipping game, and I started to understand the rental game, right? The Section 8 game, all for free by leveraging my cash
Mhm.
buyers and selling houses to them and making money,
All right.
right? Which is something I should have been doing since the beginning. So actually, after COVID, what I started to do is I got a private money lender that was helping me out fantastically. And basically, what I would do is I would get it under contract under my wholesaling company, and I would wholesale it to my flipping company.
Mhm.
And then I would go ahead and use that money to get into the deal, and I would basically flip the house with no money down.
All right.
So that was a great strategy that I learned from what my buyers were doing because they would always say, "Hey, Brandon, listen, can you go ahead and assign this to me
Mhm.
for X amount, and then put that you're gonna pay $5,000 to this other company?" And I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Like as
Right.
long as title says it's okay and it's legal, we'll get it done."
Yeah.
But I never understood what they were doing because I didn't care. I was just making my own money. And
Mhm.
so I started to understand what they were doing, and then I started to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest mistakes, and like I said, it was literally keeping more than what I was wholesaling, but also leveraging the people that are really investing into real estate, really buying, really flipping, really holding, right? And how are they doing it, right? I had one cash buyer that's made me over six figures, and he owns, I think, over 100 properties. And he was been doing novations. When I talked to him about novations when it came hot a couple years ago, he was like, "Man, we've been doing that forever." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "Man, I've known you forever. Why didn't I ask these questions?"
Mhm.
So that was the biggest mistake for me, and obviously I had to learn that the hard way. But the great thing about it is that you can always start over, right?
When did you have this epiphany?
I would say towards the end of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
When I thought everything was gonna go bad, but it ended up just getting better.
Mhm.
I said, you know what?
So even beginning of the pandemic.
No, like right in the gist of it, when things started to open back up, I
Mhm.
told myself,
Gotcha.
well, what if I can't wholesale anymore? What if there's no more houses for me to wholesale? What if the and I just was thinking about this, but I'm like, okay, what if I can't get a title company to close? Like, where am I going to make money, right? And of course, I was making money teaching people and helping people, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, real estate is the game, and that's when I said, you know what? This is what they talk about when it comes down to generational wealth. But in my opinion, being around wiser and better people that do better business than I do, I started to also learn that, in my opinion, real estate is not really for cash flow. At least the rich and wealthy don't do that. What they do is they use real estate for tax advantages and wealth preservation,
Mhm.
hiding their money, right? And I don't know if you would agree, because most of the time I see these things on TikToks and YouTube's like, hey, buy a duplex, live on one side and rent out the other side. But $300-$400 is not going to change your life, in my opinion. But wholesaling did change my life because what I did is that I used those. Now I'm a great marketer. I know how to find deals. I know how to negotiate, right? I know how to train other people. And now I know which deals to buy, how to buy them, and which exit strategies to use to preserve, obviously, my money and to be able to use all the tax advantages that I need. So what I would say is that generational wealth, to me, is transferred through intellectual property.
Yeah.
Which is why you can never, that's one brand you can never go broke from, is intellectual property.
So, you're keeping more of the properties now.
Keep them more now, for sure.
And so is it, we're saying $10 million. We're saying like, that's how much wealth
Yes.
you miss opportunity costs.
Opportunity cost, yes. 100%.
But would you have been able to keep them if you wanted to?
I want to say, knowing the resources that I had now at the time.
Or knowing what you know now, maybe.
Yes. But the resources too, because my mentor is a hard money lender, right? And the buyers and people that would, if I leveraged the right pieces, I would have 100% did it.
Yeah, like, I mean, like what you're talking about here is kind of like my I don't have a lot of regrets, right? But I have one major one in real estate.
Okay.
And it was my arrogance and and limited mindset in 2007, 2008.
Rest in peace to the limited mindset.
Right. So like, I remember walking around ASREA, which at the time was the biggest real estate investor association in Arizona for sure, but it's consistently one of the biggest. And I'm walking around this, they have this annual convention, right? Like all the vendors, like they pull out all the stops. You got the booze and this and that, right? I'm walking around with my broker at the time. Like, what's that thing over there that's like 18% interest? And like, it's a hard money lender. Like, what do they do? It's like, they lend money to buy real estate. It's like, people paying 18%?
Crazy.
Right? That's stupid. Who would do that?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm looking over here, and then here's this guy talking about like, I teach you how to buy houses, discount, distress, this and that. I was like, okay, well, that guy's a scammer, right? Right? This guy's trying to sell me education for $25,000. I'd rather lose $25,000
than pay this guy.
Yeah,
for
right?
sure.
So I'm thinking this guy's a scammer. I'm thinking borrowing money at 18% is stupid.
Stupid, yeah.
Right? I could have bought the entire Phoenix market, right?
With just those two booths.
With just those two booths, right?
Yeah.
I could have bought as many houses as I want, because at that time, 18% interest, I'd still be cash flowing, right? You could buy a house for $40K that's worth over $400 today.
Yeah.
You could buy for $40K
at pay 6, Steve.
18% interest, and you're cash flowing on day one.
Day one, yeah. And then with the APR they were giving out then, even if you refied out.
Yeah.
Because now it's so difficult. The interest rates are, I don't even know what it is now, 6 or 7
something,
or something. So, yeah, and that's why.
It was about 6 back then as well.
Was it? Yeah. Okay.
But, like, I could have bought the entire city.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no limit to what I could have bought.
Yeah.
At 18%. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the great thing about this game, is that you live, you learn, and you're able to go ahead and take this and move forward. Now we know. And that's another thing that I tell people, that the best business to start is the one that you don't know. And for so long, I didn't know about real estate, specifically wholesaling. And a lot of time it's the information that you don't know. That $25,000 would have saved you millions of dollars that you could have had in wealth, or time that you spent trying to learn what he was already teaching.
Yeah. And so not a lot of regrets. So that's definitely one of them.
That's good. Well, I mean, it's good. You learn from it now.
But what I've been saying, and like I said this when COVID struck, right? Even though it never happened, I was like, yes, finally, my time is here, right? Everything I learned in the first crash that I experienced, I can now take advantage of it.
Love it.
And it never happened.
And that's another thing that, like, a lot of the times, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I think that I saw coming what I think is transpiring now, which was, I mean, Warren Buffett said, when people get greedy, that's obviously when you're fearful. And when people are fearful, that's when you become greedy. And it didn't make sense to me that during COVID, how the market was still booming, how people from home were still making more money because of PPP, stimulus, SBA, right, working from home. And of course, the world kind of stopped, but money was still being made, or at least given,
Hmm.
that now I think we're reaping the repercussions, and we're going to reap the repercussions of it because of what happened in 2020.
Yeah. Well, so there's another lesson
Mm-hmm.
with COVID that for sure I'm going to take with me, right? The next time the government turns on a printing machine, the money machine,
Mm-hmm. Take it.
buy everything,
Mm.
right? If the government starts printing money, buy everything.
Mm-hmm.
And once they stop printing money, then in about 18 months, sell everything.
Well, see, that's another thing that I learned too, right? And this is why I always say be a student. So the average bear market, right, is I think 16 months, which for those of you that don't know what a bear market is recession,
Mhm.
right? But since most Americans don't have more than $1,000 in their bank account, that's why it's very hard for us to get through a bear market.
Mhm.
But the average bull market is, I mean, now it's over 20 years because the last, well, it's going to be almost 20 years because the last recession was in what, '08 to '07,
Yeah.
right? But the average from what they said was like 14 years. So if you think about it, that's why it always takes so long for the market to stabilize again because of the bull market. But yeah, I mean, these are all things that we're not taught. These are all things that we learn from obviously our mentors, our teachers, and other people that are smarter than us. And
We just
take
observe.
that and we observe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what I love about being around people that are going through things that are learning because, like I said, I don't think we'll make these mistakes again.
Yeah. Well,
At least I don't hope so.
and that's what I've shared this with some colleagues. They're like, they're worried, like, well, what this happens? What if that happens? Like, we've got the best relationships
Mm-hmm.
and access to capital, right?
100%.
So like when we see these indicators again, right? Like, I mean, look, like I got burned in blockchain, right? Because I didn't understand
Mm-hmm.
these dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But again, next time, right? Next time they turn on the money printing machine, like just buy
Yeah.
everything. We all saw it in real estate,
Yeah.
right? And now we're seeing the cash getting sucked out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you see what happens when cash gets sucked out of
Yeah.
the economy.
Yeah.
So we all got to experience that. So you have a community of people
Yeah.
that you work with. What is
Yeah.
that? Most business owners waste their time and money on solutions that never fix the root problems. They'll address all the symptoms due to slow revenue, and because they're only fixing the consequences, the real problem stays hidden and the cycle of wasting time and money continues. It's like having a lingering headache that won't go away despite trying every over-the-counter medicine. When in reality, you should have just gone to the doctor and had them figure out exactly what was causing the headache. And that's what's so difficult about business. You can see and feel the symptoms and yet struggle to find it. Now imagine you can find a prescription that doesn't just mask the symptoms, but actually addresses the root cause. Where would your business be if you addressed that right now? That's what our sales event is about. Your marketing doesn't suck, your leads aren't bad, and your operations aren't terrible. It's that you haven't addressed what actually makes you money in wholesale, which is the conversations you have with homeowners. It's critical that you build trust with sellers, demonstrate that you fully understand their situation, know exactly what's keeping them up at night, and paint the ideal outcome that leads them to a better future by working with you. That's what it takes to get signed contracts and keep your business going. Simply put, at our event, you'll walk away with the framework, phrases, questions, documents, and process to close more sales and buy more houses. Join the hundreds of others who have come to our live event and dramatically grown their business. Our event is happening soon and is available for you to join only if you're willing to take the pill.
Yeah, so it's actually me and a couple of business partners. We have what's called a wealth community, and essentially what we did is we started to put information out there about just financial literacy. One of the things that I devoted my time to understanding was money management, real estate, and credit. Just because these are three things that you're always going to have a problem with. Credit is, I try to use credit for everything that I do because I always have to show them, right, that I'm a credible, reputable person, and how can I get more money, right? I tell people all the time, listen, you may have $10 million, but the bank will always have more money than you. So you have to always show these people that you're credible because they're going to be there to help you buy more real estate, fund your business, help you with everything, all right? So we just started putting out more information into communities to go ahead and understand these things. And I run a wholesaling community, obviously, where I teach people how to go ahead and get started flipping contracts. And it's just the best thing, man. Being able to help other people understand real estate, especially with the barrier to entry that real estate wholesaling provides, is just great because there's no better feeling to me than helping somebody else get that same feeling that I had when I closed my first deal. And honestly, making money is cool, And it's obviously a law of reciprocity, right? You give, you give, you give. The world's gonna give it back to you. But helping other people just beat that rat race and say, hey man, I'm so thankful to be able to get into real estate because of you, is just one of the best feelings.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah.
So, you have one community or you have multiple communities?
So I have two. So I have one that's personal, and then I have another one with actually Real Estate Diddy, Brian, and a couple other friends, which
Yeah.
is the financial literacy one.
Okay, so how can someone find out about the whole financial literacy thing?
I mean, they can just contact me on Instagram,
Mhm.
link in my bio, Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook is Brandon Narain. My YouTube is Blue Notes Brandon. So just, you can just get in contact
Yeah,
with me.
because I'm very passionate about financial literacy. Like, I think that's one of the
It's,
biggest problems we have in
yeah,
this country,
yeah,
if not the biggest.
yeah. I mean, I've used, credit to go ahead and liquidate and buy real estate assets.
Mhm.
And then just transferred, did a balance transfer to a 0% interest credit card.
Mhm.
And it's great. I mean, sometimes you don't know, man, but with a Capital One, it can really help you turn into buying an asset, or it can help you turn that credit into thousands of dollars to be able to help you out. So as long as you're leveraging it correctly, and as long as you understand credit, it's very, very important.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Financial literacy is very important to understand.
So what's your mission there?
Man, the mission there is to understand the rat race and understand what America and how, in my opinion, how it's based. When you bought your car, you still have a Tesla?
I do.
Okay, well, shout out to Tesla owners, right? I'm gonna have a Tesla too. But when you bought your car, could you leave the car lot without car insurance?
No.
No. But when you were born, they let you leave without life insurance.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because we're not. The cost to
You're not
replace
a-
us. The cost to replace us is not. What's the word? I mean, we're priceless, but the financial damage. There's a lot of emotional damage if you lose us, but there's not a lot of financial damage.
There you go. Right. So what I want people to understand is that nobody's coming to save us.
Hmm.
Right. And unfortunately, the best thing that ever happened, in my opinion, was the internet. Because the internet bridged the gap between the wealthy, the middle class, and the poor. Because now you don't have to go and sit at a holiday seminar,
Hmm.
right, with the guy wearing the oversized suit trying to sell you how to flip houses.
At 25K,
For
we're talking about.
25K. You can now go on TikTok. You can now go on YouTube. You can now go on Instagram or wherever, and you can learn things for free. And all you have to do is put in the work,
Yeah.
right? So for us, it's putting out the information to help people
Mhm.
really understand how to go ahead and make money and be able to retire their families. And it all starts with intellectual property. Like, I think that if I was to restart, you named it, relationships,
Mhm.
right? If I have my phone number and I'm still in good standing with the people I know I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
Number two, if I just know what I know, and that's great. And number three, what God gave me, just my God-willing hustling and talent, my tenacity, right? But in there, Harvard doesn't fall in there talking about, pi and 4 times 5 or
Mhm.
this table and the science. None of that to me made me any money. I still haven't made any money from my college degree,
Mhm.
but this has made me a ton of money,
Right.
So that's why I think financial literacy is so important in understanding the structure of real estate. There's so many people that I come across that I tell them, yeah, I do real estate, and they're like, oh, okay, great. Maybe hopefully you can help me list my house. I'm like, I don't do that type of real estate, but
I'll
I'm
buy
like,
your
"Well,
house.
yeah, but what's your house worth?" And you know what they tell me, Steve? I don't know. And in my head, I'm like, the average person buys two homes in their lifetime.
Mhm.
They spend almost all their savings getting into that home or those homes, but then you don't even know what it's worth.
Yeah.
And that's why, you have people like realtors, or you don't know how to do for sale by owner, to where you can sell the house for 30 years on a
Mhm.
note and keep the property without the headaches of being a landlord, right? Or you
Mhm.
can lease option it every 2 years if somebody keeps defaulting and keep getting a down
Mhm.
payment, right? Like, what, you don't know these things because of the fact that you're not investing in educating yourself.
So you should have a conversation with Chris Jefferson.
Yeah,
Right.
no, Chris is my boy.
Because he's always talking about how realtors are worthless,
Yeah, CJ is my boy. Shout out to CJ.
right? But I was like, people don't understand these things, right? And I'm not saying here that realtors are God's saving grace, right? I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's any of these things, right?
There's a lot of great realtors out there.
Yeah,
but
but-
there's a lot of realtors that aren't that great.
I mean,
But in every profession, it's like that.
yeah, all right. I mean, like, for sure, like 90% of realtors are absolutely worthless. Like, you're not gonna, I'm not gonna argue that they're all valuable, right? I mean, this is me with the realtor hat on, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm a realtor too. So.
Right. So like 4% do 96% of the business, right? It's not 80-20 in real estate.
Yeah.
A realtor was like 496.
Yeah.
Right. But that point there, like people don't understand these things. They don't understand like what escrow means. Right. Like you showed properties. Yeah. And we're going to go put an earnest money deposit in the escrow. Like, what?
Yeah. What is that?
Right.
Yeah. What is a hard EMD? What do you mean hard?
And they're like, yeah, hey, like I sent you the title commitment. Like if you say that to someone, hey, just send you the title commitment.
Yeah.
Send me the what?
Yeah. And these are basic things
for us.
For us. I mean, when I explain this, to my 11-year-old nephew. What's a title commitment? A title commitment is basically the chain. It's like a Carfax, right? Yeah. What is a HUD? I'm like, this is the receipt that you'll get at Walmart, just stating what you paid and what you didn't pay and how much you saved.
Right.
But if you understand these things and you invest, this is why I think Jackie Chan said he would never leave anything, any business, any cash, anything to his children because he wants them to learn how to fish.
Yeah.
And I agree with Jackie because at the end of the day, what's the point of you leaving all of this if they're just going to go ahead and screw it all up? And that's why I think education is so important. Like you were saying, these are basic things to us, but honestly, they're not that difficult to learn.
They're not if they want to learn. And that's why I'm saying I'm passionate. Like I want to figure out a way to create more financial literacy, right? Like we do this show. And like I talk about, I preach I preach the gospel, right, of entrepreneurship and capitalism, right?
Yeah,
I'm passionate about it.
Yeah,
and if there was a way that we could instill financial literacy, I think a lot of problems would be solved, right? I mean, you talk about making better financial decisions, right? Preparing yourself so that you're not paying, you're not stuck in what do they call debtor's prison, right? Where like once you're in debt, you can't get out, right, forever. You got that, and then you might teach personal responsibility, right? You might teach like, hey, if I do this, this is going to happen. So I'm going to care more. And potentially, right, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but if you learn money, then you might care how much you're paying in taxes. And once you care how much you pay in taxes, you get pissed at what they waste in taxes.
And that's the difference too. When I was working at my jobs, I couldn't wait to get my tax return because I was getting the $1,500, right?
Yeah. Can't wait to get money from the government.
Exactly. And now I'm like, oh man, how did this happen, right? Yeah. But I think it's very, very important to understand that. But I think it's when you're on the other side of the spectrum too, right? A lot of the times you stay stuck in where your reality is, and if your reality is just the 9 to 5.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I think financial literacy will 100% resolve that, right?
Yeah.
But like, something that, I've joked about on Part of the Disruption is like, if I wanted to, I can't let off the gas because the people in Ukraine are depending on our tax dollars to protect their borders, right?
Of course.
Like I say that jokingly.
But it's the truth.
It's the truth, but like financial literacy will lead to all these things. Like I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Jim Rohn, but there was somebody that was saying like, look, I don't care if you're making 100K or if you're making 5K a year. You should still pay taxes, right? If you're making $5,000 a year, you should still pay at least $1 in taxes, because then at least you'll care about what they're doing with your dollars.
But I think also it's understanding why you're paying taxes and how taxable income is. What is the differences, right? Like we also life insurance, right? There's so many people, and I tell people all the time the reason why I think financial literacy, wealth is transferred through financial literacy is that I buy homes at 40, 50 cents on the dollar from people that worked their whole life to get that property, to sustain that property. The house goes to probate, they get inherited by their son or daughter, and they don't care about the house.
They don't.
So you tell me why, what are y'all working for? We need to be teaching the youth, like you just said, financial literacy, why real estate is important, and why maybe you should keep that.
Yeah.
Right. And what are the exit strategies? You don't want to be a landlord? Well, guess what? Sell it for sale by owner on a 30-year mortgage. Well, what does that mean? Well, go to rocketmortgage.com and pull up the calculator. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of information on rocketmortgage.com.
Exactly. So there's so many things. Like when I learned about Subject 2, I thought it was the best thing in the world, and it still is. right? When I learn about, hey, I can wholesale this property to myself, make the money, and then flip the actual house and make more money, it's the best thing in the
Well,
world.
there's another hack there too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can wholesale this property to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, because there's limited how much you could do a cash out refi, is that you could put a lien on the property. That's another LLC of yours. And then when you do the cash out refi, you get more money out,
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
right? Like there's all these sources.
Yeah, there's innovations,
Yeah.
right? Another thing that we did, right? Shout out to my private money lender, but sometimes we would up the reno, right,
Mhm.
on the draw to instead of use the credit card, we'll
Mhm.
just use that cash to start the next phase of the project,
Right.
right? So if we spent 15,000, but the APR on my Amex is killing me on this on obviously the renovation because of the draw, well, I would say, hey, it was 17,000, right? And I mean, we're limited obviously on what she's going to give us anyways, but at least we're using that 2K to start the next phase with cash, and it's not
Right.
our own cash, right? It's understanding, for my people out there with financial literacy, if they want, like, if you're renting right now, there's a credit card out there called Built, where you get incentivized to pay your rent on time, right, on the first, and you can use your routing and account number to pay it, and it's a great credit card for you to use, right? What other people don't understand too, you can use rent reporters. With rent reporters, what you can do is you can report the rent on your tenants or for them to help them either buy the house from you or move on to a better property if you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways that you can use financial literacy to help others, but also help yourself, because it's very important to understand that, unfortunately, the government doesn't like entrepreneurs. They don't
Yeah.
like us. You want to know why? Because you can go to Navy Federal and get the Amex flagship or any other cards on a personal, and they're going to give you, if your credit is 650, 670, you're going to get 25K,
Yeah.
right? More than likely. I go there and get a business credit card. What do they want to see, Steve? That my 2 years of taxes. They want to see this, that, and the third, and then they give me 10,000
Right.
because it's the business credit card.
Right.
But on my personal side, they want that personal debt, but
Yeah.
but the business debt, they don't want to give you that.
Right.
So you have to understand the game. You have to understand what's going on, and you have to say, how do I utilize and finesse the system? In my opinion, right, and this might go a little bit left right here, but I'm gonna throw it out there. So many people complain about why, maybe Grant or maybe even Trump, right? Oh, hey, he didn't pay his taxes, the question should be, well, how's he doing it?
Mhm.
And how can we all do it as long as it's legal,
Right.
right? Because I see Grant talking about all the time. He had to buy a jet. I think by the end of the year or something like that to make sure that he was offset on taxes. But a lot of the times, we have to make sure that we're doing the correct thing legally, but also understanding how can we make the game to our advantage, because we make the money, we're taxing. If we don't make the money, we're taxing it. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. You got to play by the rules that were created by the wealthy.
100%.
Another thing, talk about financial literacy, and then we'll move on. Like one of the things that when we're talking about this topic, like I remember now, like I can't remember who posted this on Facebook. It was some time ago, many years now, but they were having like an emotional dilemma, or like they were in a quandary, right? Like they bought this property from this family, right? So like this old dude, right, had like all these properties. I think maybe like multifamily, not like a major one, but like there was in that portfolio like 28 units, whatever, right? And they bought the property from the people that inherited, right? So it was 3 properties, I think, right? And one of them was was multifamily, and they gave like the 3 siblings like 8,000 each or something, right? These properties were paid off.
Wow.
And like they're posting is like, I bought these properties, gonna do really well on it, and I just feel bad for the grandfather who worked his whole life to create this generational wealth for his family, and his grandkids
Just throw it all away.
threw it all away.
Throw it all away. And that's what gentrification is.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think gentrification is the fact that us as minorities, unfortunately, we didn't educate ourselves enough to understand real estate, financial literacy, and how to use these things to keep them in our families, in our generations. But now we are.
Well, if we can get this financial literacy information out there.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Which then comes to the next thing, right? Is that unfortunately, through the internet, you now are fighting for attention. And I tell people all the time, and you don't have to, like, my guy Max does it very well. There's other people out there that do it very well, but unfortunately, you're competing with people that drive Lamborghinis, with girls twerking everywhere. So now you have to wear and buy everybody's wearing Louis Vuitton, have Rolexes,
Mm.
because you're competing to try to get your information out there. And a lot of this information is viable information. It's good information. But once again, because of our community or because of just how we are sometimes, even like you were saying, limited mindset, it's a scam. It's a scam. It's a
Right.
scam. And it's not. But if you understand the information, you use the information and know that it works for you and you become educated in it, it will work for you and it will help you out. And that's another great thing that I love about real estate is that I like to go ahead and leave people with as much money when I'm doing the wholesale deal.
Mm.
I rather we tell people all the time, hey, listen, if we're not the best option for you, then list the property, keep the property.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I don't want you to make a decision that you don't feel whole with.
Right.
Because the truth, like your family probably worked all these years to get this property. Now you're just gonna go ahead and throw it away. And that's maybe a question I want to ask you. Do you feel like I think Jerry said it, we're equity thieves? Or how do you feel about that, right? Taking grandma's house, her check is 10K, ours is 50K. How do you feel about that?
I feel fine with it. Right. I used to not.
Okay.
But I feel fine with it because here's where my mindset evolved into, and maybe this is justification, right? Just explaining ourselves. But here's what I have found: if someone wants $20,000 for their home, and you pay them $40,000 for their home, or you offer $40,000 for their home, in theory, they should be grateful. They should be, man, like I asked for 20, he gave me 40. Like, what a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also that element of like, I didn't ask for enough money. I should have asked for more. And now they start having second thoughts, and now they have doubts. And now they're like, man, let me see if someone else would offer me more than 40. So like, this is the game. I don't love the game, right? Like, if it were up to me, I'm a sales trainer. I teach people how to sell on emotions, how to buy on emotions. This is what I teach.
Which I love too.
Right? But I'm also a former engineer. I love logic, right? Like when I bought my car, right? Like I bought my Tesla last year. I had in there, right? All the makes, all the models, sticker price, options. Is it hybrid, electric, gas, 0 to 60?
You had the stats. You were comparing.
Right. Skid pad, right? How fast can I corner in this thing? Like if I can't corner at a G, like a car is not worth having, right?
Yeah.
Wheelbase, right? Length of the car. I had all these things.
You went deep.
I'm gonna buy a car based off of research.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a logical buyer.
Yeah.
But
you're analytical buyer.
Analytical buyer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's trade-offs. But that is not the normal buying process. That's how an engineer buys.
100%.
Right? And so, perfect world, everyone makes decisions logically. Perfect world.
Yeah.
Realistically,
Emotionally.
Everyone buys emotionally.
Yeah.
And so, for me, to make sure I'm able to buy this house, I'm going to have to play the game.
100%.
And she says she wants 20. 20, man. How'd you come up with 20?
Yeah. Explain to me.
Yeah. How'd you come with that number, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like 20? Like
we might have to role play here because I know you got some sales skills here too.
Right.
But yeah, no, 100%. And I tell people, right, Steve, to go with your point, people buy with emotion.
Yeah.
And they justify with logic.
Exactly.
100% every single time.
Yeah.
People buy into the brand, but they stay because of the product.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times it's all just
or the experience.
Or the experience, right? And that's why we always, when we're teaching too, if they recently purchased it, if they recently renovated it, there's going to be sentimental value there. It's not going to be a good deal for you. Right? Because the distress gets you the price reduction, but the motivation gets you the deal. So a lot of the times, those two don't coexist, and that's how you're not able to get that wholesale deal assigned.
Yeah.
Or under contract, more so should I say. So yeah, I mean, I would agree with you 100%. I think that, is it unfair that Tijuana Flats charges us $7 for a taco, knowing that I could have had 7 tacos for the same price if I would have bought the actual stuff? My accountant charges me X amount of dollars, but Jackson Hewitt charges $35. So I think it's once again going back to it's the business that you don't know is the business that you should start, and the business that you don't know is always going to cost you the most money because of the fact that you didn't know it.
Right.
And it's not the doctor, I mean, the lawyer's not going to say, well, hey, listen, all I had to do was go up there and say 3 words and this happened.
Right.
But my fee was what my fee was. You could have did it, but because I'm doing it, that's the difference here. So
I have absolute confidence that any business that's working right now, I can add 6 figures to the bottom line right off the bat. I have full confidence I can do that.
with what components?
Any component, I'm going to figure out where the leakage is. Is it in sales? Is it in marketing? Is it in leadership? Is it in finance? I'll find a leakage.
So let me ask you this: why do you think that in America we don't focus on teaching the youth that? Why isn't there more information about understanding leadership, sales, marketing, and money management? If you look at every single company, let's talk about Amazon. Let's talk about Facebook or Meta, right? Any of these big companies, it's all good leadership, great marketing, great sales, and great money management.
Right.
And the greatest thing about this is that you obviously have a story. I have a story. Most entrepreneurs, most wealthy people, were known for breaking the rules. You think that Elon Musk's parents did what Elon Musk was thinking about doing? You think Jeff Bezos' parents did? What did your parents do?
My parents, I mean, as far as what did they do?
Yeah, for work.
My mom was a supervisor.
Okay.
And my dad was a technician.
So you broke the rules.
For sure. I was supposed to stay in engineering.
And you decided to be Steve Trang, the real estate disruptor sales coach.
Yeah.
And have all these people.
Right.
Right. Same thing with me. So a lot of the times we're known for the rules that we break. I say this all the time. Imagine if Martin Luther King had a dream but never acted on it. Imagine how the world would be today.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times that goes back to that factor. Many people know that wholesaling real estate works, but does it work for them? And I think it's investing into the right skill sets that's going to get you. And they say that you wanna hide something from a minority, put it in the book.
That's awful.
It's horrible, but it's the truth. It's so crazy because when I started reading, and I'm not a huge reader. I like audiobooks too, but man, there's so much in these books. So much in these books, right?
Yeah.
And I've learned just so much from just reading. And I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. Your mindset is everything. And I think that's what led. I think every time I speak with somebody like you, somebody of high value, I say, man, I know why that person's successful, just based on how you think, how you talk, how you articulate yourself.
Right. Well, there's a lot of investment there, right? Like, a lot of personal development. But going back to we were talking about earlier, like, I'm confident there's not a business in the world I couldn't add 100,000 to the bottom line, but pretty hard to get someone to spend $100,000.
Yeah.
For information, right? So, what can you trade off, and what kind of certainty can you offer, right? And so, like with that, we're talking about grandma's house, right? Buying for $20,000. Like the trade off here, she's got full certainty.
Yeah.
She knows everything's taken care of.
100%.
Right? That lawyer, it's 3 words, still charging you $10,000.
Yeah.
3 words.
Yeah.
Right, but he's given you, and you feel good about it.
That's what it is.
You feel good about it. Like,
yeah,
you're taken care of.
And that's what sales is. Sales, to me, right? Manipulation, it's all the intent. Manipulation is bad intent. Persuasion is good intent. Most of the times, these sellers already want to sell their house. It's who do they want to do business with?
Right.
Because we're all giving them this 70% offer. We're all saying we can buy fast, we can buy as is, right? And we can do it in 30 days. But it's more so about that empathy and about leading with really trying to problem solve. And that's why I say the house is a byproduct. The money's a byproduct. Because those two things are really going to get whatever they're looking to do, because the end result is some emotion.
Right.
You wouldn't be doing this podcast with me here if it didn't bring you some type of emotion, right? Fulfillment, happiness, purpose.
Educating the public.
Exactly. That's what it is. So grandma's trying to sell the house, which is a byproduct, to get the money, which is a byproduct, to go on vacation, which is a byproduct, because she wants happiness. That's the desired state.
Right.
And I think that's where most people fail, because they don't get that granular into understanding the sales process. I meet people all the time, they're like, yeah, man, I'm starting my sales team, man, and I went and got people from the car dealership. I said, you messed up already. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, worst salespeople ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, listen, I can tell you right now, you meet a real estate wholesaler, they're way better salesmen, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we have to buy it at 50, 60 cents on the dollars, and we have to go to them. Versus at a dealership, they're already coming to look at the car, to test drive the car. They already know. They already did what Steve Trang did. They looked at every single thing about that car.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're just looking for somebody to say, I feel good about it now.
Yeah.
Right. But in my opinion, I like to hire people from Chick-fil-A
Mm-hmm.
because who has the best customer service?
Chick-fil-A.
And do you feel like you're taken care of?
Oh, I always feel good about it.
Always, right? And that's another thing I learned from the hospital
Mhm.
is the care, the nurturing, right? Somebody going in there, they have nobody with them. Family isn't there. Hey, do you need an extra blanket?
Yeah.
Do you want me to call your nurse?
I would say a nurse is better than Chick-fil-A.
Nurses are great too, but it's kind of hard to get them to get commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's Chick-fil-A. So like, I love Chick-fil-A. I'm always happy.
Yeah.
But
hmm
they're always socially awkward.
I mean, you said it.
Yeah. Right. Like the jokes we've said is like, I love going there. Right. It's God's chicken.
Yeah.
Right. But I think they only hired homeschooled kids.
But I'll tell you something that I learned about Chick-fil-A.
And there's nothing bad about homeschooled kids, right?
No, nothing bad at all.
The homeschooled kids today are very different than the homeschooled kids I grew up with.
I understand why Chick-fil-A is so good. And not let's talk about their chicken, but let's talk about their proprietary stuff, right? Number one, Chick-fil-A sauce. And it's going to tie into real estate, understanding your avatar. If you look at Chick-fil-A sauce is actually honey mustard and I believe some type of proprietary coleslaw.
Mm-hmm.
And I think barbecue sauce or ketchup, one of those. That's Chick-fil-A sauce. And what they did is they took two of the best sauces that people already loved and said, let's just make something better.
Yeah.
And now everybody loves Chick-fil-A sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about sticking to your standard operating procedures or your core values.
Right.
They're the only chicken place that I know closed on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And
no matter what.
No matter what.
You gonna close this down? Fine.
And the last but not least, when you're there, rain, storm, or whatever, those people are outside in the drive-thru.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in our business, customer service is so important.
Critical.
It's critical. It's so critical when it comes down to taking a lead into an actual shaking hands and saying, I feel good about this. They feel good about this. And thank you so much for helping me.
So, 44 years old, had a lot of fast food in my life, right? Chick-fil-A is the only place, and we've talked about it just a moment ago. I'm a crazy driver.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is the only place where I left and I didn't get my complete order, right? In the drive-thru, didn't get my complete order, and the kid chased me down. I want to say a football field, right?
Wow.
To give me my order, right? Like I was at the stop sign.
That's crazy.
And I could see someone like sprinting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like that service.
It goes to show.
And core values.
And core values, 100%. And that's what I think with wholesaling. That's what it showed me so much is that you have to really understand the desire state. You have to understand what is it that they're trying to accomplish and what emotional trauma they're going through. Because there's some trauma there, which is what I say the why. What hurts you? What is hurting that specific seller that you're going to be able to solve?
Yeah.
And in the sales process, if you want to get into it, my biggest thing is imagine one of your pet peeves is somebody that smokes cigarettes and you're going on speed dating. And you get on there and the first thing she does is pop open a cigarette. Why are you going to stay on that date? You might as well hit the bell to go on to the next, right? But so many times when we're wholesaling and we're prospecting, we stay on a call knowing that this is not the correct person. And we're not getting paid on our time, but more so on the value. And that's another mistakes that I used to make, because I used to try. I didn't know how to get off the phone. I knew this wasn't the correct deal for me, but I would still try to get in there trying to convince somebody, which is the worst thing you can do, because you can't convince somebody of something if they don't know that they have a problem.
Right. Well, that's funny you say that, because I'm literally writing, like when you were there, I was actually getting coached by my own coach on like some Facebook ad copy I was writing about like stop convincing people.
Nope.
But we actually had RJ, right, who was just on the show, right? So his would be the episode released right before yours.
Okay.
And we're both.
We got two bangers back to back.
For sure. Huge, right? But we had our first. So we both are failed professional poker players. We both tried to play poker for a living. Didn't work out. But our analogy for this right here was the thing you do at the poker table, the one thing you do more than anything else, you fold. Fold. That's the same thing, right? Get off the phone. Hey, this is not a good hand.
It's not a good hand.
Not a good hand.
Not a good
Fold.
hand.
Right? But we can't. Most, like, I spent money on this lead. I have to, right? It's like you have to finish a bad movie, right? Like, I have to talk to this guy all the way through, even though I know
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work, yeah.
Yeah. So, you talk about outcomes. So I'll share something else, is my innovations pitch, right? It's different. So, we do sales training. We got, We're blessed. We got 30, 40 clients across the country,
Mhm.
and we were talking about here, like the innovation pitch. And he was like, "Here's what I say." I was all right. Let me just share how I do this. Right? I say, Brandon, like you're looking for A, B, and C.
Mhm.
These are things that are important to you. Unfortunately, like the cash amount you're looking to get, we can't do that.
Yeah.
What if I was able to give you the exact amount of money that you wanted,
Mhm.
and all you have to do between now and the next 90, 120 days
Mhm.
is go to the title company and pick up your check. Give me the keys today,
Mhm.
and between now and then, all you gotta do is pick up your check.
Yeah.
You want to lift another finger. All I need, I can give you that price. All I need is just a little bit of time.
Yeah. It's the certainty. It's the convenience.
Right. But there's no like all this other stuff about listing on the MLS,
Yeah.
right? Or, like there's not like
Yeah.
you need this amount. Okay, what if I can do? What if I can give you that amount?
Yeah. Because sales is a lot of the times we mistake it. Not to cut you off, but a lot of times we mistake it of selling the product,
Mhm.
but we really have to sell the benefits,
Mhm.
and that's just the benefits.
That's not the benefit. It's on the outcome.
Well, exactly. But what you're saying to me is, hey, you can pick up your check, and that's the greatest thing. That's what I want is my check.
You want your check. That's
Yeah.
it.
And you're painting that picture of that's what we do, right? Hey, listen, so this is the process, what's gonna happen. But let me ask you this. I'm talking to the title company right now. Would you like a check or a wire?
Mhm.
I'm already putting them in that desired state of how is it gonna feel to have X amount of dollars in your bank account?
Mhm.
How's it gonna feel? What are you gonna do with that money? What is your first feeling about it? That's what they want. That's
Right.
what you have to put them in. That's what sales is. And I think it's going back to what you said is the trade-off.
Mhm.
How do I make the currency of money be less, right? Or less than the problem that you're having? Because at the end of the day, it's such a great value that we're giving. It's a great trade-off because
Right.
it's a big burden for you.
What's the outcome? So the other way I've broken it down, right? So like because talking about benefits, right? A lot of people pitch benefits, right?
Mhm.
So like the what we've talked about is like the features. So like if you were to sell a drill, right? Like, hey, let me tell you, like this one has that keychain thing.
Yep.
It's it's cordless, right? It's 14 horsepower,
Yep.
whatever. Like I know that's a crazy amount, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Those are the features,
Yeah, those are the features, yeah.
right? But I said, okay, so like it's got like 14 horsepower so that you can drill through concrete. It's cordless so that you can take this anywhere,
Mhm.
right? And whatever other features, right?
Yeah.
Like those are the benefits,
Those are the benefits, yeah.
right?
Yeah. 100%.
But what we sell is like
the outcome.
the outcome. Hey, tell me, like, what are you gonna be doing with this drill? I'm gonna be building a treehouse with my family. Man, you're building a treehouse with your family. Like, tell me about that. Like,
Yeah.
what's it gonna be like?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be reading books underneath the moonlight with my kids. Man, you can create memories. That's awesome, right?
Exactly.
All right, so like, if that's what you're trying to do, this is the drill I would buy.
And you know what? That goes from that goes also from a lot of timeshare
Mhm.
agents.
Oh,
'Cause
timeshare,
Crazy.
MLM,
Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Because what I learned from there and something that I do in my sales process is called a yes ladder,
Mhm.
which I don't know if you're familiar with the yes ladder.
I haven't heard that term exactly. No.
Okay, well, the yes ladder essentially is where you basically recalibrate the call and you
Mhm.
go over all the outcomes or all the benefits that they said that they wanted to
Mhm.
have. So, yeah, you want to sell your property because you want to downsize. Okay, and you want to go ahead and purchase another property in Florida. Okay, and you're going to have your two dogs, Bryce and Bruno, with you.
Mhm.
Okay, and you want to be closer to your son, Jock. Is that correct? But you're saying those things back to back to back, getting them to say yes, 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 so that when you're trying to get them the desired outcome, you're going to get them to say yes again.
Mhm.
So it's called a yes ladder to get them in the mood of saying yes and being
There's a
positive.
completely different application. So like the yeses I heard, right? I've heard, right? It's
Mhm.
like, hey, do you like cold water?
Mhm,
Like you
mhm.
like that's all trash,
Mhm.
right? Because one of the jobs I had out of high school was I worked in a cold call center.
Okay, yeah. So you know.
Like everything's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And every question is okay. Because if they say okay, then you yes me, right? It's
But
all
I mean,
trash.
they don't ever put any rapport though.
No,
There's never no rapport. There's never no empathy. There's never no nothing. Like something that
I was
did-
selling sports. I was selling ESPN the magazine for $3 a year. Like,
yeah.
you don't need rapport.
Yeah,
to sell a magazine
no,
for $3 a year.
for sure. Like what I do a lot is I get them. I use a lot of reverse psychology to get them to understand that they have a problem. If they already think they have a problem, then I do Keanu Reeves. Like in Keanu Reeves, when he was in John Wick and he had, I think, a broken hand, what did everybody kept doing? Kept pressing on that broken hand because it hurt him more. So as soon as I find those pain points, I try to go ahead and keep hitting those to understand, like, hey, listen. But what people don't understand is that it's way more powerful when you said it than when I said it, right? So I may ask something like, okay, well, what do you think your house is worth right now, right? They may say 200,000. Then I may say, okay, well, do you think it's worth 200,000 after or before the $20,000 that you said it would take to renovate it 5 minutes ago? Now you said that. I didn't say that. Now I don't say that blatantly, but just to give you the synopsis of how I would do it, because it's way more powerful when you say it.
Sure.
And since we just met, we're not that good of friends. I have to get you to understand that your property isn't as great as you may think it was. And unfortunately, Zillow has misled you with the information. And now I have to give you some education. But, I see all these scripts and all these people, which I don't believe that there's a best script out there anyways. I don't believe in scripts. I believe in processes. But one of the biggest things is oh, yeah, well, tell me a little bit more about, what you did to your property. It's the stupidest thing to ask because the sellers, they're smart. As a seller or buyer, they know that they're trying to get the most and they know you're trying to get it for the least. They know that you're trying to do all these things. But if you have a casual conversation and you understand, you take them through the process psychologically, they're going to fall into those traps, but they're also going to understand that they do have a problem and that you're there to solve that problem. And like you said, with the outcome. Yeah. And then it's more so like going back to realtors. Anybody can list your property, but it's who do I like and who would I deal with when it comes down to listing my property?
Who's going to make me feel the best?
Who's going to make me feel the best?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the art of sales, honestly.
Right.
Is being able to have that gap, that gift to gap. There.
Well, and you have that, right? You said you're the popular kid in high school.
Yeah, for sure.
And you worked 100%. You worked at the transport.
Yep.
And
I got my ways too. Yeah, I got my ways there too.
Working at a barbershop. I mean, you're just talking all day, every day.
Yeah, every day. There's just it's like card games after, dominoes after, sports, and everybody just how it is.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, everybody got an opinion, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's awesome. So clearly, you studied a lot.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Human psychology.
Yeah. NLP, I love that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I like being nosy, and I think that it's very important to understand how people think, how people react, and also understanding that not everybody's going to think like you. Not everybody is going to react like you. And people have their past traumas. People have the way that they've been brought up. And if you're trying to make money, a lot of money in life, you have to understand how to be open to those and how to help somebody dissect that, so that they can understand, hey, you know what? I do feel comfortable with this person, no matter how they look, sound, or feel, whatever the case may be.
Well, I think the key here is help them, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about a moment ago, right? Convincing, where so many people get it wrong, right? Let me tell you how I'm the best. Let me tell you what I can do for you, right?
Horrible.
It's horrific. But something we emphasize a lot, which you just talked about, is like getting them to say things so that when we are prepared to buy the house, like, here are all the things that you said. And you're talking about the yes ladder. I think the yes ladder, what it demonstrates is this person gets me.
Yes.
And
I like that.
Yeah, right?
That's a great way to put it.
And who am I going to work with? I'm going to work with a guy who gets me, because whatever he prescribed is obviously going to be good, because he gets me.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And that's another thing that sometimes as newbie wholesalers I see is that we also explain the process to them. We tell them, hey, listen, this is an engagement, but we're not getting married. And what does that actually mean? That means that we're going to go ahead and sign this agreement. It's just a promise to do business, but we still have to go ahead and do our due diligence. You're still going to make sure that I have the funds to go ahead and close. The title company is going to make sure that obviously the house is owned by you and there's no liens. And that point in time, you'll go ahead and receive your check or wire of $268,000, and I'll go ahead and take over this headache for you. And I don't know, if it goes south, can I call you back and give it back to you? And then they maybe laugh a little bit, right? But the greatest thing is you giving them that process of understanding, you know what, I am a professional, but at the same time, I do get you, and I do understand. I've used different tactics of where I've went through, hey, me and my fiance, we just buy 2 to 3 houses a month. We're not the richest people on the block. We can't buy every single property from you. But if you're willing to do business with us, then we're willing to do business with you. And I really want to do it. And that's worked. And then sometimes we have it to where we go from a company-based level, right? Hey, this is Blue Notes Inc. We buy, 8 to 10 properties. We're really interested in your property. And that's the more analytical people. logistical people that want a website. They want to know what this and that and the third. So one of the greatest things that we do is, we give them the phone number to our title company. Hey, this is my guy Ryan. If you want to give him a call, this is the title company. You can ask him yourself. Does he know me, and will I be able to come through on this? Because I know that you've been getting a lot of calls from people, a lot of foreigners that are going to give you an offer but never call you back. So, another thing that we tell them is, hey, listen, we're going to give you an offer, and we're not going to retract on that offer. That's the offer we're going to go through unless we find something, and we'll just cancel the deal out. But I'm not going to waste your time. And this is why I may be a little bit lower than somebody else, but my promise is to go ahead and come through and net you that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you'll see that people are straightforward. They're like, hey, you know what? I like it. You're a straightforward person. It seems like you really want to help me. Right. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get it done.
Yeah. Well, you can give them that peace of mind.
100%.
That peace of mind. You mentioned NLP. Where have you studied NLP?
Man. So I don't know if I should.
Actually, real quick for everyone, what is NLP?
So it's neuro-linguistic patterns, I believe is what.
Programming.
Programming. And essentially it's just understanding. I don't want to get too into it, but it's just understanding how you think. It's understanding how you act. It's just personal development on just sales psychology, how the mind works, how to talk to people. It can be random things like active touching. It can be sounds. The way that I can describe it and what I've been learning about it is more so, it's crazy to me because when I first started wholesaling, I used to immediately think about how this person looked like when I was on the phone with them. And it's all based on their sound, how they talk, their tonality. Have you ever spoke to somebody on the phone and all of a sudden they're like, man, this person does not even look on how they sound on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the times it's being able to use tonality, putting so many, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain for me right now, but what I would recommend is that you get a book on it, you study it, and you understand it because that's going to teach you a lot about sales and how the humans really react and how we react with each other and how you can really get somebody to understand your point of view, but also persuade them to do something that they already want to do.
Right. Yeah. So for me, I've always described it. It's just a way to plug directly into their brain.
Exactly. It's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
To make it not as I guess as complicated.
It's basically what it is, though.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's very important though because you have to understand that we're emotional people.
Mm-hmm.
And I told this to one of my buddies the other day. I said, man, don't you hate it when you're doing business with somebody, and it can be a big company or small company, but they don't have somebody you can talk to? Because in all reality, when you call about customer service, you're looking to go to complain about your situation.
You want to be heard.
And you want to be heard.
Yeah.
And that's what sales is.
Right.
Sales is that. Sales is, I want you to literally make me feel good about the decision that I'm halfway trying to make, but for some odd reason, I have 1,000 thoughts that come through my head subconsciously telling me that I shouldn't make it. And unfortunately, I've never been in this situation before. So can you help me?
Right.
But it's also not in a way of logistical because now you're going to confuse me, and a confused mind always says no. So it's in a way of how can I relate to you?
Yeah.
And that's why it's crazy to me. But when I go into different markets or different demographics and I'm doing real estate, yeah, I do look at that. I do look at whether the neighborhood is more Hispanic or the area is more Hispanic, or is it more Asian, or is it more African American? And I do relate. And I do understand, okay, this is how I have to be because this is maybe how they may be, or I have to understand. I have to have that different outlook, right? Because you can't be in a box all the time.
Yeah.
And that always helps. And that's what I'm saying. I think being a student, being open-minded is going to get you way farther. And I think that was a transition because I always thought just getting a degree and just doing whatever people told me to do was the best way.
I've tried to learn throughout the years, and I've picked up a bunch here and there, right? Unlimited Selling Power is a book that was recommended. I recommend it, right? Unlimited Selling Power. There's Words That Change Minds.
Right, that just sounds powerful.
Yeah, right. So that was a great book. And all the other books, they're just not very good, and it's frustrating, right?
It's frustrating, yeah.
So
Minds is it's like a course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, you look at these events, right? But then if you want to go to these events, they're 7 to 10 days. No one's got time.
Yeah.
I don't even have 10 days. This sounds terrible. I don't want to take 10 days on a vacation, let alone 10 days at some conference. It's insane.
But you know what? Can we touch on that real quick? Why don't you want to take 10 days on a vacation? Because I think it's the struggle of the entrepreneur that you feel like you didn't do enough. At least for me, I'm on a vacation and I'm like, okay, I have to at least open up my laptop or
Mhm.
respond to something. I can't unplug because I feel like I didn't do enough or I didn't do anything. And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm invaluable. And then that's another thing that I tell people is the Bible says you can't overindulge, but we always overindulge in one thing. And my overindulgence is just success.
Mhm.
It's entrepreneurship and it's helping other people. To some other people, it's sugar, food.
Mhm.
Some other people, it's liquor. Some other
Mhm.
people, it's drugs. Some other people, it's whatever it is. What is it for you that you said you can't go on vacation for 10 days?
So there's two different things. A, if I'm not doing anything productive, I feel like I'm wasting time, and that's some psychological childhood trauma
So
stuff,
so we're both diagnosed with the same thing.
right?
Okay.
There's that. And then B, like every day at work is vacation. Like I'm
Mm,
never like,
unhappy
yeah, like I can't believe,
because fulfillment.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like the only times this business is tough is when you have to hold people accountable or you have to let someone go.
Mm,
Like for me, like those two things, right?
yeah.
Those are tough.
And sometimes,
And holding people accountable, it's not even as bad as it used to be.
yeah, for
Right?
sure. Letting people go though. It's
Letting go
like,
people
ah.
always sucks. Always
And that
sucks.
that was another problem that I had. Real estate 101, wholesaling with newbies. Yeah. I used to keep VAs.
Hmm.
I used to keep acquisitions for longer and they weren't producing.
Yeah.
But also it was my fault because I wasn't tracking the KPIs to understand, hey, listen, where do they improve?
Hmm.
And I think that's another issue when it comes down to the wholesaling community. Is that when you start off, you have to understand that you cannot just delegate everything to somebody
Mhm.
because you're just as good as a leader. If my son, when I have a son or daughter, and I'm trying to teach them how to throw a football, but I've never thrown a football before, it's not going to pan out too well for them.
Hmm.
So a lot of the times what we do is that we get that first deal and then we assign everything to a virtual assistant and then we complain to them or we get upset with them upon why things aren't working, but that's because you're not being a good enough leader to actually show them what they should be improving on
Right.
because you're the boss.
And you don't necessarily have to show them. You can provide the resources,
100%.
but you still have to hold them accountable to
Yes.
the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, I've leadership, right? So I've literally sat in every seat in this company,
And that's the
Right.
best way to do it.
right? At every seat, except until the point where we got a media team,
I
right?
feel you.
Right. Once it got past the iPhone, like okay, like this is outside my scope,
Yeah.
right? But until then, like literally, like everything, right? Like I said, I cut my teeth cold calling,
Hmm.
right? The running appointments,
Yeah.
dispoing deals, listing it, like everything,
Everything. Yeah. I've
Everything.
done everything too, even from the
Yeah.
media standpoint.
right?
Too. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's easier then to hold your people to the standard,
Mhm.
right? To let them know. But yeah, that new wholesaler who's got this check and now is buying this tool and this dialer and this VA. All right, you have everything you need.
Hmm.
Go crush it.
Yeah.
That money, you might as well just lit it on fire.
Yeah. No. I mean, and we're on Real Estate Disruptors. I can be transparent on here, right?
For sure.
Guys, listen. You have to understand that we all have an agenda. We're all obviously educators, influencers, and yeah, sometimes we push products that have affiliate links. But what I would say is stick to one coach. If you like Steve Trang and Steve Trang saying this is what you should do,
Mhm.
stick with him. Don't. That's another thing that I did. I started to do. I remember when even Carlos had the bell. I went and got a bell. Remember when everybody was getting deals and
The
doing
gongs,
bell?
yeah.
The gongs, and it's like you would learn. This person's doing this online, and this person's doing this online, and by the time you know it, you're doing so many things, and then nothing's working.
Frankenstein.
And you're blowing your capital.
Mhm.
Get with one or two people that you really like, try that out, and just like a probationary period at your job, do it for 2-3 months and see what really happens. Put some action behind that prayer, and it's gonna work for you. It's gonna
Yeah.
work for you.
You spent countless weeks going back and forth with a homeowner only to lose a deal because the seller changed their mind, another wholesaler made an unreasonable offer, or what the seller needs from the sale, you just can't pay. Now imagine you've got the ultimate control on a property that you just locked up, meaning you're on title and every decision has to go through you, eliminating virtually every external threat. That's why the installment method was created. Through installment payments, you have full control of the property as your name is now on the title. Any decision the seller wants to make now has to be approved by you. No longer can they pull out equity, go with another buyer, or change their mind. Imagine combining the best of creative finance with the flexibility of marketing the property on the MLS to collect the most amount of revenue possible, all while having total control of the property. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The concept here is simple, but implementing is challenging. So visit wholesale2024.com to learn more so that you'll never have another deal blow up. So I've had a lot of coaches over the years. And with all the coaches I've had, unless they outright sucked, like I was
Learn
working with
something.
them for years,
Yeah.
right? Not 1 year, not 2 years,
Yeah.
years, right? Until I felt like I've gotten everything I can possibly get from this person, right? So yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, don't try to do 6 or 7 different coaching programs, right? You do 2, fine, right? But you get past 2.
Yeah, and it goes down to, they say, oh, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. It's true, but what made them a millionaire was probably 1 or 2.
Right.
Real estate made you probably the person that you are today, and now you have multiple facets of businesses that continue to make you more money.
Right.
But that's called sustainability. Most of the times, it's that 1 or 2 things that you became a master on that's pushed you to that edge. So many people, they have the shiny object syndrome. They go from crypto to real estate to Amazon automation and this and that and third. And it's no, you have to focus on one thing. That's what I love about wholesaling real estate is that I learned how to market. I learned how to do sales. I learned how to do real estate. And that's another great thing that I tell people is like, hey, listen, you have to think about it. Marketing is the biggest thing in the world. When you have a resume and you go to an interview, that's called marketing. You're marketing yourself to this employer.
Yeah.
You're telling them all the credentials that you have, why you're responsible, why you're going to show up on time, and even if you do a good, bad, or mediocre job, they're still going to pay you.
Right.
It's marketing.
Absolutely. So, you have a CRM that you use?
Yeah, so systems was meant, honestly, systems was the best thing that I ever did. That's what allowed me to have multiple jobs and be able to close all the deals that I closed. At the highest point, I was closing between 8 to 10 deals, and it was because of my CRM system. I'm a big believer in understanding how to build a predictable business. A lot of the times, you know, I became a solopreneur, then an entrepreneur, and after that, it was like, you know, you think that you're going to spend less time in your job or, you know, your own business, and you end up spending more time. So yeah, my CRM allowed me to go ahead and really plug myself out and allow me to understand my business from a perspective of just going from side hustle to actual corporate company. But not only that, also understanding things while I'm here with you. I'm able to just look up certain things in my CRM, KPIs, and understand where my team is, how they're doing things, and be able to close deals. I can know it's going to take me, you know, 32 leads to go ahead and get a deal under contract and XYZ because of my system and my CRMs.
Right. Gives you the confidence.
100%. 100%. Because then that's what entrepreneurship is. What we're scared of is the unknown. We're scared of how much we're going to pay in taxes if we're not tracking it. We're scared of when is our next deal going to come in. We're scared of what is this test or what's the baby gender reveal, right? Or whatever it is. Everybody's scared of the uncertainty. And that's why with entrepreneurship, it takes a lot of risk.
How can someone get the CRM?
You can go to bestrealestatesystem.com. You can DM me the word Mamba on Instagram. You know, just reach out. Yeah. So Mamba is the name of the CRM. And it was crazy. When I first created it, I honestly was just using it for myself. And then I had a bunch of students saying, well, I need to use what you're using. And then I was like, okay, cool. I guess I'll put a price tag on it. And then the craziest thing, Kobe passed away. And I just felt propelled to call it Mamba. And since then, I've been tweaking, using it, and I've had you know, several thousand people come through, and it's helped so many people.
Yeah.
And it's just so bestrealestatesystem.com.
Gotcha. So we're talking about certainty, right?
Certainty.
Or the unknowns. So that's going back just a moment ago where we're talking about coaching. So the problem with having multiple coaches or multiple influences, at least, is that we sign up for coaching not for the information, because that information is free. You get it here. You get it on YouTube, right? The information is free.
Where are you going with this, Steve? Let me hear.
So what happens is you pay a coach for 2 things: confidence and certainty, right? Hey, Brandon, here's what I'm thinking about doing. Is this the right move? You're like, Steve, that's a stupid idea. Don't do that. Say, oh, okay. What should I do instead? Go do this. Okay, great. I go do this. I am taking confident steps, and I'm all in on that step. I'm
100%.
confident and I'm certain.
Yeah.
I look it up on YouTube. Hey, this guy said, go do this. I'm going to go do it. But I'm still not confident. If I'm not confident, I might not do it the right way,
Yeah.
right? If I don't do it the right way, I'm not gonna get the right result,
Yeah. Because I know it works for you, but will it work for me?
right? But having a coach tells you, go do this. All right, I'm gonna go do it,
Yeah.
right? And you've got conviction.
It's like a personal gym trainer.
Exactly.
You know how to do a push up.
Mm-hmm.
You know you have to bench. You know you have to squat. You know you have to do your triceps and your biceps.
Right.
But am I doing it correctly?
Yeah.
Am I doing the amount of repetitions? Right? Am I doing it consistently enough? I mean, and that's what entrepreneurship is you may not see the six pack on the first day,
Mhm.
the first week, the first month, but over time it's gonna come.
Right.
The work always pays. And I think with entrepreneurship too, so many people they don't stay in the game long enough to see the results.
Yeah. We definitely don't.
You don't because of the uncertainty.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
if I have 3 coaches, right? So I got Brandon,
Yeah.
I got me,
Mhm.
right? And so let's say I got Brandon, I got Jerry Norton, I got
Mhm.
RJ Bates,
Mhm.
right? 3 of the guys that were recently on the show. And I hire all 3.
Yeah.
Right? RJ says, don't cold call.
Yeah.
Brandon says, cold call.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do as a student?
Yeah.
Do I cold call? And I cold call? Like, what
Yeah.
should I do? Now I got uncertainty and nothing works.
Yep.
Right? That's
And
what I'm
a
saying. Like,
confused mind always says no.
right. So you gotta like don't try to follow too many influences because if you do,
Yeah, you don't.
now you're kind of hosed.
Yeah. I think when picking a coach, find somebody that you resonate with, that you align with. Do you see yourself spending a lot of time with this person?
Mhm.
Right. Number 2, have they helped other people?
Mm-hmm.
And number 3, in my opinion, are they doing what they say that they're doing? And have they been successful at it?
And the thing I always ask is, are they living the life I want to live?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Because sometimes your core values may not align with theirs.
Yeah. See, I think Lamborghinis are trash.
Yeah.
So I would never hire a coach that
They have
drives
a Lamborghini. Oh man. But you know,
that's my own personal thing.
But you know, nowadays, and let me ask you this, right, Steve? Because I seen this on Instagram the other day. It said you guys keep talking about people that have Rolexes and Lamborghinis and this, that, and the third, and say that you shouldn't you shouldn't look rich. What is it like? Oh, don't look rich, but be rich.
Mhm.
But then they were like, well, who do you think are all the people that are buying the Lamborghinis? They're obviously rich and wealthy. But I think what people don't understand is that it is a form of marketing,
Mhm.
right? And marketing works because you have to capture people's attention. But I don't always think that you have to do it with materialistic things.
Mhm.
A lot of the times, you can do it with just information. You've done that very well with your brand, with information,
Yeah.
and then leveraging other people's networks and information.
Yeah.
I'll bring up Max. Max is not that type of person to do that type of stuff neither. But I think that both work, and I
Mhm.
think that everybody has their accomplishments as well. I made a video myself of talking about, I'm a wholesaler, and of course I marketed the deal before I got under contract. It was like one of those little funny videos. Of course, my second deal, I bought a Rolex, right? And I think that a lot of the times you do have to delay gratification, but you do have to be happy that you've made it to a certain place. And
Oh.
sometimes it can be, for somebody, it could be a Lamborghini. To somebody, it could be a trip to Hawaii with their family.
So yeah, I mean, for me, I would say like, someone wants a Lamborghini, buy a Lamborghini, right? Like,
Yeah.
even though I don't like Lamborghinis,
Yeah,
right?
try
Like,
it,
whatever.
yeah. You're right, take
No.
a Tesla.
I've never driven a Lamborghini, right? So full disclosure, right? I've always liked Ferraris more than Lamborghinis, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've never said like don't buy one. Like,
Yeah.
if you love it, buy it. And to your point about like marketing, it is 100% marketing. It's very
100%.
unfortunate, but my brand, like, you're never gonna see me on Instagram and like, oh man, like that's the guy,
Mhm.
because all you're gonna see is me giving information, and people don't want to be educated if they've never seen you before, right?
Of course.
Right. So like my demographic
Mhm.
is someone that's done deals
Mm.
and can recognize what I'm talking about. If
100%.
you've never done a deal before, what is that guy saying? I'm talking entirely foreign language, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm in front of a Lamborghini, right, like if I rent a Lamborghini
Mhm.
and I rent an Airbnb
Mm.
and I go rent some watches
Mm.
and I say the same exact thing, they're gonna pay attention.
And that's the unfortunate thing about social media right now, and that's why you have to be aware of where you're getting your information from and who you're getting it from. I think in our industry, you'll know who's like Steve said, he's known me for a while. I've been following him for a while.
Mhm.
A lot of the people that have been doing stuff, we've been doing it for a while, and you'll know, and I think it's great though. I think we have to keep pushing it, and I think that we have to keep giving the people education on what we're doing because the market's consistently changing.
Mhm.
What do you think is going to happen? I know. Obviously, we have the new election coming up. What do you think is going to be happening in the real estate wholesaling realm?
Well, I think in the next, I don't foresee us. I don't foresee wholesaling still being legal in 24 months. I don't foresee
Mm.
that. Right.
What do you think they're gonna do? Make everybody have a license?
No, I don't think that's gonna change either. Right. So here's what's happening in South Carolina this week. Right. They're going to make wholesaling illegal in South Carolina this week. Right. You think South Carolina and North Carolina's not talking? You think they're not talking to Tennessee? They're not talking to Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like the last few years, they've been talking about how to make wholesaling illegal. All the Department of Real Estate, right? All the commissioners, all this and that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we have wholesaling masterminds. Like we don't think that these commissioners talk to each other. You don't think the guy in Georgia is talking to the guy in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
right?
100%.
So I think it's gonna be illegal, right, in the next 24 months. But there's ways around that, right? I think the bigger problem is the whole National Association of Realtor deal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Looks like that's gonna get worked out. It looks like Fannie Mae is on board with the seller paying a buyer's agent commission.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they're okay with it. Just the MLS can't do it. So who knows what's going to happen there? But depends on what the Department of Justice says. Department of Justice is saying, hey, if this is a ruling, then we shouldn't be able to pay buyer commissions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that. That's going to crush the real estate industry.
Which to me doesn't make sense. I'll tell you this, right? I feel like the buyer's agents do more work than the seller's agents. Because as a buyer's agent, you have to get them pre-approved. You have to take them to all these listings. You have to go ahead and talk with the lender,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to negotiate with the listing, right? We just listed our flip for sale last month. All he did was hire somebody to take some pictures, a drone.
Mhm.
We did one open house. The house was renovated and it sold.
Right.
Now think about the buyer that came. He probably showed them hundreds of houses,
Right.
then had to get the lender. So I think they kind of screwed up there. I understand where they're going with it, but
I think they both provide value. They provide values in a different way.
yeah.
Right. So the buyer is going to make you feel good. The buyer's agent is going to make the buyer feel good. Listing agent is going to tell us what needs to be said to get the home sold.
Yes.
Right. So they're two different personalities.
Yes.
Interest rates, God knows, right? Like the inflation numbers are not getting any better. I'm seeing reports. Who knows what to believe? I'm
Mhm.
seeing reports they might raise the interest rates this year, right?
But do you think it's just to make the new president coming in look good so that he can come and fix everything? And
No, I think we're in this bad a spot. We printed so much money. We need to fix this problem. We need more people to suffer. And then on top of that, like the thing that no one talks about, nobody's talked about, is that we've imported 2-3 million people into this country in the last 3 years.
it's been
Right? It was
like
100.
probably even more. I don't know.
They found they tracked 139,000 people through the border last month. Right?
Yeah, tracked is the
Tracked.
key word. Yeah.
No one is saying, because I think they'll get canceled for it, so I might get canceled for this. No one is saying, what is that doing for demand in real estate? You think that's not increasing demand to real estate, adding 3 million people into a country, right? That's not 1%, right? Because it's about 350, 370 million people. It's not quite 1%. But we don't think that's impacting demand in
But
the
that's
country.
tracked though, so it could be 1%.
Could be 1%, right? So, like, nobody is saying how this is affecting, right? You can complain about rent going up all you want,
Yeah.
right? But you think that having more people here isn't going to affect the price of rent,
Yeah, 100%.
right? So, but all in all,
And then all the people going to Texas and Florida because of New York and California and
but even that slowed down, right? So, like, Matthew Potter is a good friend of mine, right? He was the host of Part in the Disruption. Short sales are happening in Florida, right? Because the migration from New York has slowed down, right? So, like, even though I don't talk as much about real estate, like, I'm still blessed. I still get to interact with everyone in all the different facets of real estate. I get to hear what's happening. So, all in all, I am not optimistic about the real estate market. But again, like I was saying, in 08, 09, the lessons learned there, I can't wait for something bad to happen. A lot of people are going to suffer.
Yeah.
But I can't wait.
Yeah. Well,
'Cause-
because of what you know now, the opportunities, and because of the resources.
Yeah.
And the network that you have.
The legwork we've been doing for decades, close to decades, right?
So basically what we're saying is if you don't know, you should get around people that do know. right? And
Power of
becoming,
masterminds.
and start becoming educated.
Buy your way into a room.
Yeah.
Buy your way into a good coach. Get those relationships going.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing, 100%. And that's and I mean, of course, will they probably regulate wholesaling? Yeah, but you have to understand the concept of people with distressed properties will always be here because of the 3Ds: death, disaster, and distress.
Right.
And there's always going to be.
It's going to happen, but what's probably going to have to happen is you probably have to buy the property.
Which is fine. We have a lot of private money lenders.
I know, but if you're a wholesaler,
It's hard.
it's going to be tough,
It's gonna
right?
be
And
real
that's
tough.
what sucks. Like, I'm not pro regulation, right? So like, I'm not excited about it because it removes a lot of people from the real estate world
Mm-hmm.
that don't have a lot of other options,
Yeah, which
Right.
is sad. Yeah.
right? So you look at someone.
Because there's a lot of us that are providing value. There's a lot of us that are helping
Right.
actual homeowners in situations that they didn't know that they could have.
But you look at someone who's made some bad decisions in life. They can't get a regular job, right? I know people who have made some bad decisions. We're not even made bad decisions. We're in an unfortunate situation
Yeah.
where they're no longer employable in a traditional job.
Yeah.
So they found wholesaling,
Yeah.
and now we're gonna take that away from them.
Yeah.
Now what?
That's not.
Now
Yeah,
that's where my heart hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Comment down below. Are you pro regulation or are you anti regulation? Do you think that wholesaling will be illegal in the next 24 months?
yeah, I would put money that it's gonna be.
Mhm.
So what are some last thoughts you want to leave all the listeners with?
Man, I
We
just
covered a lot.
Yeah. We've covered a lot. I first and foremost want to say thank you, Steve. Long time overdue. Should have
Yeah.
came on here a while ago. Thank you for having me on here. And what I would just say to you, man, is real estate investing is the key to go. Obviously, God isn't going to come down here and make Earth bigger. And unfortunately, there's 3 million people, I guess, tracked that are coming into the U.S. And when you are the lord of the land, you are going to be the one making the decision. So I would do whatever I needed to do to go ahead and make more capital, buy more real estate, and understand how to manipulate these exit strategies, novations, subject to owner financing, Airbnb arbitration, which we didn't get to cover, but I have obviously a couple. And these are ways that you can go ahead and just by leveraging information and leveraging somebody else's asset, you can make money. So I definitely recommend that, you guys learn real estate, understand financial literacy, credit, and just get around the right people. Hire yourself a coach, tap in with myself, Steve, whoever resonates with you, and hopefully you enjoyed the episode.
Awesome. How can someone reach you?
Yeah, so the best way to reach me at this current moment is going to be on Instagram at Blue Notes Brandon. You can always DM me, follow me. I'm going harder on YouTube. YouTube is a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
But YouTube is also Blue Notes Brandon, and Facebook is Brandon Narain. So you can definitely reach out to me. I'm willing to help you any way that I can. And just let me know that you saw me on Steve Trang's Real Estate Disruptors, and I got you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. It was
Steve. Appreciate
awesome.
you, brother.
Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.
Shout out to Steve Trang. Jump on the Steve Trang. We real estate disruptors.